He's ready. We're all ready. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City Council meeting for the City of Alameda. Today is Tuesday, June 17, 2025, and we are about to go into closed session. And before we do, I would like to ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmembers Bowler.
Here.
Pryor.
Here.
Mayor Ezzy Ashcraft.
Here.
3 present, and hopefully Councilmember Jensen will be here momentarily, and Councilmember Daysong should be here very quickly, too.
Great. In the meantime, would you like to announce the items that we'll consider in closed session?
Yes, and we have no public comment.
Oh,
so.
thank you.
3A is conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The city negotiators are the city manager, the acting human resources director, the general manager of Alameda Municipal Power, and the deputy city attorney. The employee organizations are Alameda City Employee Association, Alameda Police Management Association, Alameda Police Officers Association, Alameda Police Officers Association Unsworn, Electric Utility Professional Association, International Brotherhood of Electric Workers, and Management and Confidential Employee Association. Under negotiation are salaries, employee benefits, and terms of employment. 3B is public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. Positions evaluated are the city attorney, city clerk, and city manager.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And so we are going to adjourn into closed session, starting with all the staff needed for item 3A. And it is our intention to be back before the public by 7 p.m. this evening. So everyone involved in 3A, come on back with us, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. 7:10, but we'll wait for the city clerk. City clerk, you shouldn't have to open windows. Someone else can do that. We need you to run the meeting. I'm lost without you. All right.
We're good.
All right. Okay, as promised, here we are. It's 7:10. Nice to have company tonight. We get lonely sometimes. Anyway, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City Council meeting for the City of Alameda. Tonight is Tuesday, June 17, 2025. The City Council has just returned from closed session, and I am actually going to report out on item 3B that the council took 2 votes, and with regard to the, and these were public employee evaluation, performance evaluations with regard to the city attorney Eben Shen. The council gave direction to staff, which they approved on a vote of 5-0. And then with regard to the public employee performance evaluation for city manager Jennifer Ott, the city council also gave direction, which they approved unanimously by a vote of 5-0.
And then for 3A, I
Yes,
can take
3A.
that one.
Back to you, Madam Clerk.
That one was a conference with labor negotiators, and there were also 2 votes in that. On the first vote where council provided direction, it was by 4 ayes with Councilmember Daysog voting no. And the second vote with council also providing direction was by 5 ayes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And with that, we will adjourn the closed session, and I will call to order the regular meeting. Actually, this is a special joint meeting of the City Council and the successor agency to the Community Improvement Commission. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like to ask my council colleague, Tony Daysog, if he would please lead us in the pledge.
Please rise as you are able. Ready, begin. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Daysog. Madam Clerk, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmembers Bowler?
Here.
Daysog?
Here.
Jensen?
Here.
Pryor?
Here.
Mayor Ezzy Ashcraft?
I'm here.
5 present.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, would you please introduce item 2 of our special joint meeting and tell us what we need to know?
Yes, so for this special joint meeting, there are 2 items on the consent calendar. One is a public hearing to establish the proposition for appropriations limit for fiscal year 25-26. So now is the time for public comment on that public hearing or any other items on the consent calendar. And we have no public comment.
And
it
we
looks like.
have no public
Yes.
comment.
So
That
then
makes it
council
easy.
can take action.
So then we will move on to just to approve the consent calendar for the, is it the consent calendar?
Yes,
Yes,
for
the
the
consent calendar for this special joint meeting. And so I just need a motion to approve item 2, the consent calendar.
So moved?
Been moved by Vice Mayor Michelle Pryor, seconded by Councilmember Greg Bowler. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? No, that motion passes. We go on to agenda item 3. And Madam Clerk, would you introduce that item, please?
Adoption of resolution approving and adopting the operating and capital budget for fiscal years 25-26 and 26-27. A resolution adopting the budget also for the successor agency, the Community Improvement Commission, and adoption of resolution approving workforce changes and amending the Management and Confidential Employee Association salary schedule and amending the Alameda City Employee Association salary schedule for the fiscal years.
Thank you, and welcome Finance Director Ross McCarthy.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Ross McCarthy, the city's finance director. On May 5th and May 13th, staff presented a proposed fiscal year 25-27 operating and capital improvement biennial budget. We solicited input from city council, community members, and city staff. Tonight's presented budget incorporates the direction staff received from city council at those meetings. The city enters this budget cycle in a stable financial position, supported by strong, consistent property tax revenues and a healthy residual fund balance. This is no small achievement and reflects the City Council's responsible stewardship of city resources, particularly as we face an uncertain economic climate. That said, the fiscal year 25-27 budget is what I would consider a bit stretched. We're feeling the impact of a slower economy, a decline in sales tax revenues due to the departure of a major taxpayer, and rising programmatic costs over the past 5 years as the city has responded to community demands for new services. Our ongoing revenues currently cover about 97% of our ongoing expenditures. To bridge this gap and maintain existing service levels during this uncertain time, the city will be drawing down from our residual fund balance. This proposed budget preserves an expected $9.3 million of residual fund balance above and beyond City Council's 25% requirement at the end of the budget at the end of the biennial budget cycle, so at the end of fiscal year 27. General fund. So the proposed budget includes key investments in the City Council identified strategic plan priority areas, including enhancing safety and services. This budget includes the hiring of a victim advocate in the City Attorney's Office, as well as adding security, a library technician, and 2 new librarians to the library. The budget also focuses on housing all Alamedans by continuing the successful emergency supportive housing program from general fund dollars after the ARPA funding is fully expended in December of this year. This budget invests in transportation and infrastructure by allocating $1.8 million general fund dollars towards the Lincoln Marshall Pacific Corridor Improvements Project and $1.2 million general fund dollars towards neighborhood greenways. In order to build resilience to climate change and water level rise, this budget includes $400,000 to begin implementation of a comprehensive emergency water supply system, as well as money towards the Bay Farm Island Adaptation Project. After input, the general fund expenditure budget proposed for year 1 is $152.2 million, and year 2 is $153.8 million. As you can see from these categories, the vast majority of our general fund budget goes to paying the city's hardworking staff. The all funds proposed budget is $361.2 million in fiscal year 25-26 and $358.3 million for fiscal year 26-27. Based on your feedback, we looked at our CFDs as an extra possible source of revenue. We incorporated hiring up to 72 police officers instead of the proposed 70. As mentioned before, the city will be hiring its first victim services advocate. We increased the library social services in an amount close to $78,000, as well as other various adjustments while adding to our 25% reserve. Oh, and now here is the city's public work director, Aaron Smith, to present the capital improvement program.
Well, welcome, Director Smith. Hi, yes.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I'm Erin Smith, your Public Works Director. At the budget workshop in May, I provided a detailed overview of the capital improvement program budget. Tonight, I'll just be providing a high-level summary. The proposed funding from all sources, various sources in the capital budget is $42.3 million for fiscal year 25-26, or what we call year 1, and $40.4 million in fiscal year 26-27, or year 2. The investment focuses on funding projects that improve safety, security, and accessibility, and leverage grant funding, which is $17.6 million in grant funding over the 2-year period. The capital budget also includes $8.1 million of general fund contributions, some projects in which Director McCarthy just highlighted in his presentation. That $8.1 million makes up 10% of the overall funding. So the nearly $83 million in investment from the numerous sources advances 17 specifically named strategic plan projects. So in your packet this evening is a detailed project sheet for 38 individual projects. Noted on that project sheet is the general category of investment. This pie chart shows how the $83 million is broken out by that general category. And if you notice the 2 pie slices on the right, making up about half of the $83 million in investment, is going into improve our city's roadway infrastructure, whether that's routine paving, signals and lighting, or transportation system enhancements like neighborhood greenways, safe routes to school. The other predominant investment is into our sewer system and our building facilities. You'll note 2% to parks and another 7% to stormwater and adaptation. I mentioned back in the workshop in May that 2% to parks is a little bit misleading, and that a significant portion of our building and facilities investments go to build recreation centers and other buildings at our parks. Another way to break down the 83 million is by funding source. So the pie chart here shows the various funding sources, also summarized, same data summarized in the table on the right. As mentioned, that's 17.6 million in grant funding. That makes up 21% of the overall capital budget. And while the majority of that grant funding is going into transportation system enhancements, it's also used towards relocating the day center as well as public EV charging. And while there was no council-directed feedback on the draft capital budget that was presented back in May, there are 2 staff-initiated changes that I just wanted to highlight. The Alameda Point Pier 2 rehabilitation project originally had $3 million in year 1 and $2 million in year 2, but based on further review of the available Alameda Point fund balance, we're removing the additional, or the $2 million in year 2. And given the federal uncertainty around the federal grant for the Oakland Alameda Estuary Adaptation Project, we're removing that grant from year 1. And if that grant is awarded, staff will return to council to appropriate the awarded grant. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, and you're the only 2 presenters on this one? Okay. At this time, are there any clarifying questions from council? I have one, and maybe for the city manager, the Oakland, or maybe Public Works Director, so the Oakland Alameda Estuary, what was it, the Estuary Adaptation Project? Is that the one that's over by the tube? Okay, so that was not the one that we were expecting a FEMA brick grant from, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. That was my only clarifying question. Madam Clerk, do we have public comment on this item?
We do not.
Okay, well then, we will go to council discussion and a motion. Councilmember Desag?
Yes, thank you. Still a question, I guess. I just want to clarify one thing because I think the authorized sworn police officer position was kind of framed as an increase from 70 to 72. But isn't it correct to say that historically, at least since the year 2011, or fiscal year beginning 2011, the authorized sworn police officer position had been 88. So what's before us today is really by capping the number of hires for 72 sworn officer positions to 72, it's really a reduction in 16 sworn officer positions from the historic 88, which was the amount last year. And in fact, the 88 is the authorized budgeted sworn officer positions that's in the budget that's published in Exhibit 2, but we're limiting it now to 72. So isn't it correct to say that that's really a reduction in budgetary authority in terms of sworn officer positions from last year, at least from the previous fiscal year?
Yeah, I would say it is correct in that, yes, staff did recommend capping the budgeted authority level of 70, and then we increased it to 72. And yes, it is, the authorized positions are still open at 88. However, staff recommends that we do not remove the authorized positions and keep on looking to see if more money comes in.
Mayor, may I just add?
Certainly, City Manager Janot.
So it's been many years where we've been able to actually fully fund all 88 positions. And so what happens is there's essentially salary savings every year that accrues to the city. And in some years, like last year, we used that to purchase a fire engine, or we were able to reappropriate some of that salary savings. So it's pretty common. So what we're doing this budget, so it's our recommendation is to essentially slow hiring after 72, but it isn't. we're essentially realizing that salary savings from the not filling the full 88 positions. But that's essentially what we do every year for the last, many years, is to essentially receive that salary savings. We're just kind of formalizing it now and using that, essentially counting on that salary savings to help balance our budget.
Thank you. Thank you, Finance Director. So my view on that is, I hear what you're saying, City Manager Ott, that in practice, while we have annually authorized up to 88 sworn officer positions, in practice and in reality, we never hit that amount. But I think the key difference, though, is that that is an authority that the chief could exercise if he were able to get up to that amount. I think what happens now is that discretion is now removed completely because we're capping it at 72. So that is a concern. And this is the third or fourth budget meeting, so this is not new information. But for members of the public, who are coming online for the first time or attending the meeting the first time, I think it's worthwhile to understand, some of this kind of information, because we all agree, having a safe city with fully staffed police force is obviously important. And also it's important to not frame this as, in some outlandish way. I think, the city manager's office, as well as my fellow council members, are looking at the situation and making their decisions accordingly, and I don't second guess it. But I do think, though, that we should continue with the authority for the police chief to go up to 88. That's my view. Nothing new. I said it before. Maybe the police chief wouldn't even come to that number, but at least, that is a chance. Now we're kind of closing off that chance. I guess in the final analysis, I'm looking at a reduction in sworn officer budgeted authority of 16 positions and an increase in 5 positions that are non-police, if I did all the counting, and I think it's Exhibit 2. So to me, it just, we all have different priorities, and I respect that and I recognize that. But I do think, though, that, for example, I don't think we're getting emails that says, we need to hire 2 more people in IT. And we are, in fact, creating 2 positions in IT. So to me, it's like, I hear people saying that we need more people in library. Okay, that's fine. But I think it's these kinds of information, these kind of trade-offs that we're making that I think, as a council member, I think we should stay the course with 88 sworn authority for 88 sworn officers. But like I said, this is the 3rd or 4th meeting, and I think my view on it. And I think as a city, I think we'll continue to be safe, and I know that our police chief will continue to deploy his men and women in a way that tries to maximize the men and women that he has. So.
Thank you, Councilmember Daysog. I'm going to just make a couple of observations along those lines. First of all, we all know on the council that our city manager, Jennifer Ott, works very closely with our police chief, Nishant Joshi, conferring with him about his needs and his requests, and my experience there very much in lockstep at the requests and proposals that are before us. And of course, nothing happens in a vacuum. We all know every city in this county, I'll give you every city in the state, is for the most part dealing with budget shortfalls, budget deficits, how we spend that money that we have, how we spend it wisely. And so we have a great public safety workforce now. We happen to be in labor negotiations. I can't take y'all into closed session, but let's just say that we want to be able to continue to pay the salaries of our public safety officers. We want to be able to give them raises and other considerations. And so we take all that into consideration when we're looking at our budget. And I would also say to you, and I think the statistics bear this out, that our crime rate has gone down because we have a police chief and he has the officers working with them that are data-driven, that know where to employ the resources that are needed, where in the city we're doing more with an automated fashion and just, working smarter, doing more with less. So I'm not going to get hung up on any particular number. I'm looking at what we have. We all want to attract good people. We've done that. We want to retain good people. We're working to do that. But I'm really grateful that we have city staff under the leadership of city manager who work so well together with those communications. Any other council comments before we take a vote? Councilmember Jensen?
Thank you, Councilmember Daysog, for raising this issue. And I just would like to follow up with a question to the city manager with regard to the authorized positions. First of all, we've discussed this as Councilmember Daysog pointed out, and at least since I've been on the city council for 2.5 years, there have not been, we've increased the police force by about 3 to 5%, and we've had this authority, but we haven't been able to fill these positions. So that's my comment. My question is, what is the consequences of maintaining a budget that has a large number of positions that are not potentially going to be filled? What does that mean for other programs and services?
Yeah, I think if we were to fully fund all 88 positions and not count on the salary savings from them, I think we would have to look at service cuts.
Thank you.
Anything further? Councilmember Daysog?
So I do want to underscore, so the issue isn't on the revenue side well, the issue is that we're using our police force to create savings to pay for other things. And to me, and the savings amounts to $3.2 million. $3.2 million divided by 16 police officers, positions is $200,000 a pop. So I don't know. I just think that every council member needs to, reflect, vote their values. I just feel that we should be making more effort to hire police officers. I don't think, like I said, I don't think people are clamoring for 2 more IT people, and there are 2 more IT positions. In total, there are 5 other positions outside of police department that are positive, whereas the department is -16. And at the end of the day, yes, the chief is doing a great job, but I do think that we're stretching our limited resources thin, and that we're kind of now locking ourselves into that scenario, so.
And I'm calling you next, Councilmember Bowler, but I just am going to say, we all have that First Amendment right to express our opinions. I don't agree with the characterization that we're using our police force to achieve savings. I don't think that's what's happening at all. And while it may be true that the public is not clamoring for more IT professionals, that's because there's a lot of what the city does that is unseen to the general public, but they might feel the lack of those positions or just the smooth functioning of the city would be impacted by it. And again, we're council members, we approve policy. I don't want to get into second guessing what the city manager, what the HR director and other department heads believe are their needs. Councilmember Bowler?
Thank you. I just want to highlight the fact that in the series of budget workshops and these meetings, not only did city staff, the city manager, make public safety a really top priority, but so did all the council members. We all have been, very concerned about keeping our police force in a really strong position going forward. It's definitely the case that retention has been an issue, that, kind of echoing what the mayor said about, thinking about the different factors of the budget. It's not just about funding new police officers, but about keeping our existing ones and making sure we have the best quality talent for the ones we do recruit. And if you look historically, to get to 72, it would be a very good achievement for the city in the next 1 to 2 years. And I think that there's a strong consensus to get to 88 down the line. But factoring everything, it's definitely the case that there weren't trade-offs here. It wasn't about we were going to be able to get more police officers if we wanted to. No, I think what you see is that we're positioning ourselves so we can get to 72, which would have been a great accomplishment even if 88 positions were funded. And I think going forward, I think there's a strong consensus to increase that down the line, but we're factoring in a difficult budget situation and many different factors. And I think it is correct to say that to some degree, the police are doing more with less. They're using the resources they have even more effectively, using new technologies, using really the interests of the citizens too. I mean, we all have spent time talking to our neighbors, and people are concerned about crime, but at the same time, they're involved too. And we have groups of citizens in different parts of the community that are doing their part too. So, and there's also portions of the city's budget that are preventative. Some of these things that we're talking about are the type of proactive crime prevention things that, you think about social services, some of the enhancements at the library, different factors of this budget. We're trying to find ways to prevent crime, not just to fight it. So I think I feel very comfortable with the city's recommendations on this budget.
Do you want to make a motion?
And so I would make a motion to approve it.
I make a motion to approve.
And did you want to comment? I didn't know.
Yes, I was gonna say, I mean, everyone said, what everyone said was very thoughtful. I just want to draw attention that, we have had budget constraints, and so I think that we've done a great job of prioritizing our values and safety. As Councilmember Buller just said, with social services, roadway infrastructure. So I feel very confident with this recommendation. So
Great. So what we're voting on is to adopt this resolution approving and adopting City of Alameda operating capital budget for fiscal years 25-26 and 26-27, and approving and adopting the successor agency to the community improvement. Madam Clerk, you do this much better than I do.
Madam Mayor, I have other
yes,
questions,
Councilor
sorry.
Jensen.
We were talking about just the police budget, but I have some other questions
Of
about
course.
the entire budget. Actually, I wanted to get some information. In the budget, there's some many capital projects, and I've heard from members of the community that there is a capital project that's not expressed or explicit in the budget, and that is the Officers Club at Alameda Point. And so I wanted to get some information from Public Works Manager, the City Manager, regarding any process to make improvements there, improvements that have already been done that may not have been recognized, and what the future looks like for the Officers Club.
Mayor, may I?
Please, Director Smith.
Thank you for elevating this issue. Just for the benefit of everyone listening, the Officers Club, or the O Club, is a historic facility out in Alameda Point's adaptive reuse area on West Red Line. It's a pretty large facility. It serves as the primary event space for our Recreation and Parks Department. They rent it out for weddings and parties and other sorts of special events, and cater to a lot of nonprofits that use the building. Over the last 5 years or so, we've invested the better part of $750,000 into the facility. Things include roof replacement, windows repair, bathroom renovations, carpet, Some new appliances in the kitchen. The kitchen is mostly decommissioned and only used for staging and warming. Trying to think what else. There's been paint, we've painted interior and exterior, as well as extensive landscaping. So there's been some investments over the year. There is some HVAC and electrical work that was scheduled in the current, so the 23-25 capital budget. That still needs to be executed, but that was some HVAC and some electrical work that's scheduled.
And that's in the current budget?
That's in the, it's in the current 23-25 budget, not the 25-27 budget. So its money is already appropriated.
Okay, so that's for the HVAC, and can you comment or provide any details about what would be necessary? I understand the kitchen isn't likely to provide a commercial kitchen or to do that remodel part, but what else? Are there other outstanding issues that could be addressed, that we should be looking to be addressed in this budget?
Councilmember Jensen, if I can piggyback onto you, I think we got the same emails, and I would think Director Smith did too. There were allegations of uncleanliness of the kitchen, rodents, that caterers who come in have to do a full cleaning before they'll even put their things down, and that goes beyond HVAC and air conditioning. So, and then back to Councilmember Jensen, but I think that was along the lines of at least the communications I've heard from.
Happy to speak to those. So about a year or so ago, maybe a little less, we did get some complaints of rodents, and we swiftly acted. We sealed off any penetrations on the building, set traps. We actually have a high-pitch sound that we can't hear, that rats can't hear. We haven't received or seen any observations in the year, but when we do get those complaints, we act quickly. In regards to kitchen cleanliness, Director Long is here, but we have a contractual service that provides pre- and post-event cleaning. I understand there may have been some quality issues with that vendor that have been addressed. And Director Long, I'm not sure if he has anything to add to that, but.
Well, let's go back to Councilmember Jensen, who might be thinking of some different things.
Right, so that there, my question obviously began with the budget, because that's what we're here talking about, and so it appears that there isn't any funds dedicated in this budget to address issues other than, well, none, the HVAC is in the prior budget. So, and from what I'm understanding from you, much of the work that resulted in the concerns of public users has been addressed. And so I just wanted to learn from you and perhaps from the ARPD director, are there any outstanding areas that we should be suggest that I as a council member or that we could provide direction on, or is there any type of projects moving forward to think about the needs of the Officers Club?
Thank you. Yeah, so our we call it an internal service fund, but our building facilities plan really just deals with basic repair and replacement. It does not do large-scale renovations or user feasibility sort of analysis on how we could reimagine the building. That really would benefit from a master planning process, and a master planning process that involved stakeholder input and really looked at adaptive reuse, and there's a lot of potential in that building that's untapped right now, but that's not really contemplated in our facilities plan. That would really warrant a master planning process.
Thank you. That answered that question, and I wonder if I could ask if Director Long could expand on the strategic planning or the facility master plan idea.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and council members. The idea of what can the O Club become in a master plan is really what we should focus on. It's a very large facility. There's portions of the facility that are not open to the public. And really, we need to evaluate everything from where the parking is, where the entrance is. The current parking lot we use is owned by the school district, for example. So we really have to look at the orientation of the building. So this feasibility study long-term would help us get there. I will say that with my department and project management for doing that feasibility study, getting out to the community, getting their opinions, and really trying to figure out what the aquatic center will be, would really not probably happen until late of year 2, given the aquatic center that's under construction, as well as other projects like DPAVE and others. So in order to take on that feasibility study, we'll still need some time, is just saying from a department capacity level.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So don't go away, Director Long. Thank you for being here. Actually, my concern is not so much about master planning and future iterations of the O Club. It would be lovely, but this is not the year, and probably next year isn't either, to be embarking on something like that. But at a very basic level, we have had emails from members of the Alameda Welfare Council, which is a longstanding organization in Alameda that does a big fundraiser every summer. They do it at the O Club because they get about 300 participants, and that's the space that would accommodate them. I do think that regardless of what our budget is, basic cleanliness is just paramount, of the kitchens, of the bathrooms, of the public space. And so if, as Director Smith seemed to say, there was a contractor that wasn't doing such a great job, is there a plan for making sure before an event happens that someone from your department goes over and, lays eyes on the property and makes sure that it's in shape to have the public come in? How are we doing with that?
Thank you, Mayor. We actually have that in process or in place already. This actually occurred when these notifications came that we were having a rodent issue. We actually did institute those activities, deep cleaning with our vendor. We have people going in spot check after them to make sure that they've taken care of everything in the kitchen and everywhere in the facility. So our staff do that. We have attendants at every single event that are there to observe as well during those to make sure that there's nothing happening. We also do a Tuesday open night for anyone who wants to come and rent the facility. So we have people in the facility regularly checking this for cleanliness. So all of that has been addressed at this point. We've held the vendor accountable. It's our citywide vendor who cleans all of our city buildings, Imperial. So we've been able to work with them directly in order to increase that service level so that we don't have that condition anymore.
Okay, and I believe the summer fair that the Alameda Welfare Council holds is coming up this summer, is it?
Yes, it happens at the end of August, early September.
Okay, and will you make extra special effort to make sure everything is perfect before they get there?
That we will, as we do with all of our renters.
I appreciate that, because we could all use fewer emails to that effect. Thank you. I will say the place looked great when we hosted our board and commission members for an appreciation event recently. Other comments and questions before we take a vote on the motions that the city clerk will explain?
So
that is
you're
in
adopting
writing?
the city council resolution to adopt the budget, the SACIC resolution to adopt the budget, and the workforce changes council resolution.
And we've already had a motion by Councilmember Bowler, seconded by Vice Mayor Pryor. Any further discussions? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Opposed.
Any abstentions? The motion carries 4-1. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And with that, we will move on to, we will adjourn the special meeting of the City Council and the successor agency to the Community Improvement Commission. And I will call the regular meeting of the City Council to order. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Roll call has been noted, 5 present.
Thank you. Are there any agenda changes?
There are none.
All right, and there are no proclamations or special orders of the day. Do we have any oral communications, non-agenda items?
Yes, we have one speaker.
Okay, I'm going to do my really quick announcement about oral communications, actually any communications. So this is a city council meeting. This is a business meeting. We're here to do the business of the city of Alameda. It is not theater. It is not a sporting event. Therefore, we do not boo, hiss, jeer, do the wave. We just sit and listen respectfully to our fellow speakers, and if it's your turn to speak, you come on up to the microphone, speak for your allocated period of time, and then peacefully sit down, please. If you have a poster, you can certainly hold it up. However, don't hold it above your head unless you're in that last row so you don't block anyone's view of the proceedings. And there is a penal code section that I usually read, but I'm only going to do it if I feel it's necessary, because this looks like a really orderly group, which most of them are. But anyway, I say these things almost every time because public speaking can be the most stressful thing that some people do, and I don't want anyone to feel intimidated, too intimidated to get up and speak their piece at the city council meeting. This is the public forum, your public forum in the city. So make it a safe, welcoming place for everyone by respecting those rules of the road, if you would please. And with all that, Madam Clerk, and when it's oral communication, non-agenda items, you must be physically present in the chamber. So who's our speaker, Madam Clerk?
Jelma Gay.
Welcome, Speaker.
Gay.
Yeah. Is it?
Thelma.
Welcome.
That's a T, sorry.
Yes, welcome. Come on up.
Okay, how much time do I have?
3 minutes.
3 minutes?
And you
One
want to make
moment,
that
please.
microphone right where you need it.
Okay, so start now, okay. Honorable members of the city of Alameda, I stand before you today to share my story and the significant contributions I have made to the community, particularly to Dignity Village. I was the very first person to move into Dignity Village, an achievement I am proud of and can be seen in a newspaper clipping where I'm picture cutting the ribbon alongside Mayor Marilyn Ashcraft. I also had the honor of giving the opening speech at the grand opening ceremony. My efforts have initiated meaningful change, transforming management practices, improving residents' access to housing, and advocating for dignity and fairness for those experiencing homelessness. I was the first person to begin the process of self-sufficiency at Dignity Village. It all started with a meeting with Brandy T, followed by discussions with the social services manager, Marcy Johnson. I pushed for equitable access for parking, for the residents to be able to do their own laundry and have keys to their own rooms. Recognizing that many residents needed to stretch their EBT funds, I requested access to refrigerators, microwaves, and food storage areas in the kitchen. When Brandy T and Brandy Marshall from the organization 5 Keys refused to listen to me, and since the men had not yet arrived, only women were present during the first 2 weeks. I worked diligently to advocate for residents. Brandy Marshall eventually agreed to my request, but Marcy Johnson, as the social services manager, had to be involved. That's how she became engaged. I also observed and reported aggressive and condescending behavior by Brandy T, Brandy Marshall, and 2 other females towards residents. I documented these incidents and reported them to Marcy Johnson. It was only 5 weeks later that it was revealed that they had been out of prison, which explained their conduct. During this time, approximately 12 employees were working there. My efforts extended to addressing residents' urgent needs. Many were expelled from the building and found screaming on the street and belongings scattered or encampments under trees. I became involved in outreach, gathering belongings and coordinating with staff like Jamil Wilson from 5 Keys to speak with residents and understand their mindset. For example, Debbie was expelled, but later re-entered after
Your time is up, but you
Okay.
should feel free to send an email to us if you'd like. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you. And that was our last public speaker?
That was our
on
only
oral
speaker,
communications?
correct.
All right. So then with that, we move on to our consent calendar. And these items are routine and will be approved with one motion, unless there's an item the city council wants to pull. Madam Clerk, do you want to step in? Because we have a few little different things we're doing because of a couple of the consent calendar items today. Do you want to just
So
jump
we
in?
have several hearings that I need to announce. It's starting with item 5S, which is a hearing to adopt a resolution ordering that no assessment be levied for fiscal year 25-26 in connection with Zone 7 of Island City Landscaping and Lighting District 84-2. 5T, which is also the same landscaping and lighting districts, but zones 1, 4, 5, 6, and 8. And then 5U, which is a resolution ordering levy of assessments for Maintenance District 0101 Marina Cove. And lastly, a hearing to consider the water quality and flood protection fees on the property tax bills. And so now would be the time for public comment on any of those 4 hearings, and we have no public comment and no protests.
We have no, okay. And then next, are there any items on the consent calendar that the council wishes to pull? Seeing no council pulls. Does council have any questions on any of the consent calendar items? I feel like a bobblehead. I'm seeing no heads bobbing in response. Okay, and you have announced the hearings. And Madam Clerk, did you say we have no public speakers?
No public speakers.
So we'll close public comment on the consent calendar. Then I'm just looking for a motion to approve and a second.
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Do I have a second? Second. A second. It's been moved by Vice Mayor Pryor, seconded by Councilmember Jensen. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? The consent calendar is approved unanimously. Okay, and then it's taken a long time, but we get to our regular agenda. And Madam Clerk, would you please introduce that item, and then I'll make my little announcements.
Perfect. So this is various actions related to the potential sale of 13 acres of land in the Enterprise District of Alameda Point for Pacific Fusion Research and Demonstration Facility. So it's a public hearing to consider adoption of resolution declaring up to 21 acres of city-owned property in Alameda Point bounded by West Pacific Avenue, Central Avenue, West Tacoma Avenue, and current and future Orion Street to be exempt and surplus land under the Surplus Land Act, and introduction of ordinance approving a purchase option agreement in furtherance of the purchase and sale of city-owned property for use as the Pacific Fusion Research and Development Facility site, and authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute a purchase and sale agreement indeed consistent with the terms of the purchase option. For purposes of the California Environmental Quality Act, the project is subject to streamlined environmental review, and no further environmental review is necessary pursuant to the CEQA Guidelines Section 15162, subsequent EIRs 15168, program EIRs, and 15183 projects consistent with the community plan or zoning.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And so before I introduce our Base for Use and Economic Development Director, Abby Thorne-Lyman, who will have 10 minutes to present the staff presentation, Pacific Fusion also has a presentation for us. I'm told that they've whittled it down to 6 minutes. However, what I would suggest of the council, and I thought we'd do it now so that we could just seamlessly move through both presentations, is why don't we vote to give them up to 10 minutes so nobody has to feel too rushed. This is a big deal, but it takes a affirmative vote of 4 council members to increase time like that. So what I'm looking for is a motion to allow Pacific Fusion to have up to 10 minutes to present their presentation after Ms. Thorne-Lyman finishes hers.
So moved. Second.
Then moved by Councilmember Tracy Jensen, seconded by Vice Mayor Michelle Pryor. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
That was everyone, right? Okay, that passed unanimously. Welcome, Ms.
Thank you.
Thorne-Lyman.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council. My name is Abby Thorne-Lyman, Director of Base Reuse and Economic Development. I'm here tonight to ask the Council to consider a series of actions authorizing the sale of 13 acres at Alameda Point to Pacific Fusion for construction of a nuclear fusion demonstration facility. The subject property is located in the Enterprise District of Alameda Point, which has been envisioned to accommodate large-scale, job-generating uses such as this. The city has been actively working to recruit such uses to the area for over a decade, but it's been a struggle due to the limited market for large-scale job-generating developments as discussed in our October 2024 study session with the City Council. In February of 2025, the City Council authorized staff to pursue negotiations with Pacific Fusion for 2 phases of development through an exclusive negotiating agreement, or ENA. Pacific Fusion's proposed first phase includes a 220,000 square foot research and development facility focused on advancing their research in nuclear fusion. This includes a pulsar intended to test and demonstrate the ability of their fusion process to generate energy, as they will discuss. The pulsar would be used approximately once a day and is not a power plant. Pacific Fusion would need to have this facility operational by 2030, and as such, to meet this deadline, they would need to commence construction in 2026. This project is aligned with numerous city goals, including advancing clean energy, which is a goal of both the Economic Development Strategic Plan and the Climate Action and Resiliency Plan. In addition, as we discussed at the 2024 study session, this is a unique opportunity to catalyze development in the Enterprise District through both the creation of 250 new jobs in Alameda and the construction of critical backbone infrastructure that could be used to jumpstart other development in the area. This is a panoramic view from West Ticonderoga Street looking north toward the proposed site that shows how underutilized this area of Alameda Point is today. The property is currently vacant and is mostly vacant land. Additionally, the project would demolish Building 530, shown in the background, which is a vacant building at the corner of West Ticonderoga Avenue and Skyhawk Street. Orion Street currently connects West Pacific Avenue, where you would enter the base, to West Oriskany Avenue, running north and south. It would be replaced with a new backbone street consistent with the Master Infrastructure Plan, or MIP, and would extend an additional block that does not currently exist from Oriskany to Ticonderoga. There are 4 processes happening concurrently with this project: the CEQA analysis, the real estate negotiation, the planning and entitlements process, and Chevron's cleanup of the existing Terry refinery waste, which is on the site. Importantly, in this development process, we're separating the real estate transaction, shown in green here, from the planning and entitlement process, shown in blue. This means we're asking the City Council to consider approving the sale of the land before the Council considers the planning approvals. This means there will be additional public hearings in the fall at Planning Board and the City Council, and toward the end of 2025, the City Council would consider approving the building and development. In the option tonight, Pacific Fusion cannot purchase the land unless they receive an approved development agreement from the city. If the City Council does not approve the development agreement, Pacific Fusion could not proceed with this purchase. The Planning Board held its first study session for the entitlements process in late May and will hold additional public meetings this fall to discuss the land use approvals for the project before a development agreement is considered by the City Council. As part of the ENA process, we also required Pacific Fusion to undertake its own community engagement process, which has involved numerous community meetings and events that they'll discuss in their presentation. Staff are asking the City Council also tonight to adopt the CEQA findings as part of this action. We've completed an environmental review checklist specifically for this project, which is included in the materials for tonight's meeting. This project is consistent with the project evaluated in the Alameda Point EIR, which was adopted in 2014, as well as the General Plan EIR. The Alameda Point EIR evaluated the build out of the area with 5.5 million square feet of reused or newly developed space for a total of 8,900 employees. The proposed 220,000 square foot building and 250 employees falls well within the EIR build-out assumptions. The project is allowed by the zoning and would provide infrastructure consistent with the MIP, and all of the mitigation measures would be included as conditions of approval. We have therefore concluded this project would not introduce substantial changes or new information that has not already been evaluated. Throughout the engagement process to date, we have received a range of questions and concerns regarding the fusion process and risks to public health and safety. Pacific Fusion has been fielding and responding to these questions, but in addition, the city commissioned a third-party evaluation by an independent hazardous materials experts, which is also included in the materials for the meeting tonight. Our consultants modeled the worst possible case of community exposure to tritium, the radioactive substance proposed to be used by Pacific Fusion, and found that even in this worst case, exposure was within the safety thresholds of the EPA and Department of Public Health. The facility would be regulated and limitations would be enforced by the California Department of Public Health through a radioactive materials license, significantly reducing the risk that such exposure would ever occur. This license covers everything from on-site storage and use to movement of materials and facility decommissioning. The city would work closely with the Department of Health when the license is being processed to ensure community concerns are addressed. In conclusion, our third-party team concurs with Pacific Fusion's statements that the overall risk to the community from this facility is low. Now I want to provide a brief overview of the terms of the purchase option agreement. First, the first phase of land would be transferred to Pacific Fusion for a cost of $28.9 million, which would be provided through the development of the backbone infrastructure in the Enterprise District by the development team. That's for the 13 acres. This is consistent with the terms and approach the city's taken with other land sales and development agreements at Alameda Point. This is a way for the city to replace the outdated Navy-era infrastructure by leveraging the value of land. The exact scope of the work would be defined by the cost estimates and construction bids as they come in, but would generally include backbone streets, as I mentioned, 2 blocks of Orion Street, the replacement and repair of sewer and stormwater systems, and power connections from the nearby Cartwright substation, which is north towards West Atlantic Avenue. Staff will ensure most of the infrastructure being delivered is permanent and is implementing the MIP in a way that future adjacent development could actually take advantage of those improvements to catalyze their own uses. There are also provisions in the option to ensure forward progress on this project and to deter land banking. If they select Alameda, we expect Pacific Fusion to move forward at a very rapid pace, given their aggressive timeline for constructing this facility. But the agreement includes conservative outside dates by which key milestones must occur, or Pacific Fusion would be in default of the agreement. For example, submitting their full entitlement package by November of this year, submitting building permit applications and a final parcel map by fall of 2026, commencing site work within 18 to 24 months of the issuance of permits, and then vertical work within an additional 18 months on top of that, and obtaining a certificate of occupancy within 36 months of vertical construction. Because construction costs have been so volatile since COVID, there are also terms in the agreement addressing the potential for infrastructure cost overruns, which has been a huge concern of the development team, including regular check-ins on the scope of infrastructure work to be completed throughout the construction phase. So we would check in if costs are getting out of hand, we would stop and check in and make sure the scope could still adequately be delivered. And the city's willingness to share up to $2.5 million in cost overruns beyond the value of the site. Lastly, but certainly very importantly, as I've mentioned already, it can't be stated enough, Pacific Fusion cannot move forward with the purchase of the property if they do not meet certain conditions, including council approval on the development agreement. This would come to council toward the end of 2025. With that, staff recommend the council take action tonight, adopting the CEQA findings, declaring this land and the Phase 2 land to be exempt surplus per state law, and introducing the ordinance to approve the purchase option in furtherance of a purchase and sale agreement. Thank you.
Well done, with 55 seconds to go. Thank you, Director Thorne-Lyman. And next up is Pacific Fusion. Whoever is presenting, come on up and introduce yourselves, please. Welcome. And go ahead and make that microphone yours. Hi.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council.
Do you want to introduce yourself to us?
Yes. Sorry, Christine. There we go. My name is Courtney Richardson. It's great to see familiar faces. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the infrastructure lead at Pacific Fusion, and today I'm joined by my colleagues, Alex Doniak, our head of communications. We also have Keith Lachine, our chief technology officer, Carrie Von Munch, our Chief Operating Officer, and we have our Development Manager, Mario from Hines, our Land Use Attorney, Linda Klein.
Welcome all.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to see familiar faces. Over the last 6 months, we have thoroughly enjoyed getting to know the Alamedans and the business leaders here. And we just want to say thank you for the opportunity to educate you on our technology, talk about Pacific Fusion's mission, and discuss a little bit more about how we are going to achieve our milestones. So thank you. Pacific Fusion's key scientists co-founded this company in 2023 based on the recent breakthroughs at the National Ignition Facility, located here in Alameda County. One of those scientists is sitting in the audience, Keith Lachine. Fusion is everything that we need. It's safe, it's clean, it's on demand, and it provides firm baseload power. In January, we started working with city staff. Abby did an amazing job introducing the project. We've also been working with the planning department, Alan Ties Group, Stephen Buckley, Brian McGuire, great people to work with, to propose on a 13-acre site and development plan. This is an illustrative concept of what the facility will look like in the environment. This is just off of Seaplane Lagoon, and it sits just south of Astra's engine testing facility. So one of the misconceptions that we want to continue to clear up is this is not a power plant. Abby mentioned this in her presentation. A power plant facility looks very different than a demonstration facility. We will not be producing noise, vibrations, or generating kilowatt hours to be placed back onto the grid. This is purely for demonstration and R&D purposes. What we are going to be hyper-focused on in the next couple of years is achieving something called net facility gain. Net facility gain is the concept where we achieve more energy out than what we put in. This facility, again, is purely for demonstration purposes, where we're not generating kilowatt hours, we're not placing them back on the grid. Safety has always been and will continue to be our absolute top priority. The use of radiological materials is more common than most think, and throughout this engagement process, we're hoping that that's one thing most individuals and folks have picked up on. We will be licensed to handle tritium, our radiological material, through the California Department of Public Health. In the same way a university, a life science facility, or a hospital would be managing their radiological materials for their operations. We've partnered with third-party specialists to define what our life safety systems should look like and our regulatory framework. We are actively and proactively working with EHS consultants, fire life safety consultants, and certified health physicists to define those systems and regulatory framework. Abby did a great job mentioning some of the infrastructure benefits this project would bring directly to the city. There's so many more. Instead of going through all of them, we wanted to pull forward just a few. This is a $1 billion investment. This project is going to take about $1 billion to build. Over the course of 10 years, we'll be contributing about $120 million in tax revenue and supplying about 250 permanent positions to the facility. Also, something that we're really excited about, this is a brand new industry, and a brand new industry needs new talent, skill sets, and a talent pool to be able to provide that industry with good people. We've been having great conversations with President Dixon from the College of Alameda to discuss how we could form STEM partnerships, educational programs, to provide an avenue for those leadership and future employment opportunities. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it off to Alex. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. Madam Mayor and members of the council, it's great to see you again. Local engagement and transparency are incredibly important to us. And as Abby mentioned, we worked with her and the staff to develop a robust community engagement plan to help Alameda get to know this project over the past few months. As Pacific Fusion's engagement lead, it's truly been my privilege to speak with dozens of business leaders, nonprofits, residents, and elected officials, and really introduce them to not only this project, but also the company and our technology more broadly. We're lucky to count the support of a number of local and regional organizations, including some of the names that you see here on this slide. But pictures are worth 1,000 words, and so we wanted to end on a short video that summarizes just a few of the activities and conversations that we participated in over the past few months. On a personal note, it's truly been my pleasure to get to know this awesome community.
We believe community engagement isn't a checkbox. It's the foundation of a responsible energy future. Since February, we've hosted town halls, career fairs, family days, and mixers to listen and learn. From safety to economic opportunity, your questions have sharpened our thinking, and your feedback has shaped how we move forward. Our goal has always been clear: bring people along, build trust, and make it easy for Alamedans to understand what Fusion is and why it matters for our future. To everyone who's engaged with us so far, thank you. You've made the process smarter, more transparent, and more grounded in the community we've been grateful to get to know.
So with that, we will open it up to questions.
Thank you so much. All right. So, council, let's see if we have any clarifying questions before we go to public comment. And I'm thinking we might have a little bit of public comment tonight. Councilmember Jensen.
I have
And,
actually
let's see who, it might be that we want
a
staff to answer
question
the question.
for the redevelopment, or the base development director.
Director Thorne-Lyman.
Thank you for the presentation. Thank you, Director Thorne-Lyman, for all of the, I know it's been a lot of work to get to this point. So it's really exciting to be learning more about this and to be at this point. My question is, could you please, you commented on the enterprise zone in the presentation and in your remarks, and this, how the zone is, has been set aside for economic development and for research and development, things like that. Can you comment on why it isn't being considered for housing?
Well, yeah, thank you, council member. I guess just to go back in history, it feels, with Jen sitting here, the city manager here sitting here, it feels like a quiz here, but going back to the history of the base closing, and the city of Alameda lost 18,000 jobs, and a key priority of the BRAC program and for the city of Alameda was to restore those jobs. So, retaining, there is land zoned for residential development to the north of West Atlantic Avenue, and we've entitled quite a few housing units, but delivering these jobs would really help us create a more balanced place that restores the economic promise that the base had provided to the city long ago.
Thank you. So I understand that this, just to be clear for everyone who's watching now, this area and this part of Alameda Point is restricted and not available for housing development, correct?
That's correct. There are some, there's a small area along Main Street that has been zoned for residential development to create a buffer with the neighborhood, and that's unchanged, about 100-foot depth from Main Street and Central Avenue. So there would still be the possibility of that buffer, but that's really the only area zoned for residential in this.
Thanks again.
Okay, any other clarifying questions from council before we go to public comment? Councilmember Desai, you have that look about you?
Just a quick question. So I think there was a mention made that the amount of radiation handled by this place would be similar to what's found in hospitals. So what is the typical amount, let's say like x-rays, what is the typical amount that, say, Alameda Hospital, do we have that kind of number? Because I think in the in Exhibit 3, the third-party report, there's reference to no more than a radiation that generates no more than 1,500 curies. Someone will have to explain what these terms are.
Mm-hmm. Madam Mayor, if I may, I'd like to ask Pacific Fusion to come address that, because I believe that was a statement that they had made regarding the
We'll take a
amount of
subject matter
tritium.
expert. Come on up and introduce yourself if you would, please. Hi.
Hi. Thank you all for having us today, and thank you for the great question. So,
You want to
yes.
introduce
So,
yourself?
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm Keith Lachine. I'm CTO and co-founder of Pacific Fusion. I was here a few months ago to speak with you all about getting the whole process started. Yes. So, in terms of what other facilities are licensed to have, is generally not a publicly available number because it gets into security. These are types of materials that you have to keep safe and secure because people try to get them. But the California Department of Public Health heavily regulates radioactive materials through its radioactive materials licensing process. And the inventory of tritium that's described in both our CEQA documents as well as the independent assessment that was conducted are in line with the inventories that the California Department of Public Health routinely regulates up to. So those are perfectly aligned. We've actually got in alignment with them through multiple interactions with them over the last few months. Actually, thanks in great part to your great questions back when we were here in February. So we don't have the exact amounts of every single facility and medical quantities of radioactive materials in any part of this region. It's not publicly available, but what we put in is in line with that process.
Was that all for you?
No, and I'll ask a question. I don't know who is best to respond, but I'll ask it. So, Alameda Point generally, or even the furthest west end generally, has a high water table. And it is for this reason that many decades ago, we had adopted the Marsh Crust Ordinance, recognizing that the groundwater ebbs and flows with the rising of the tide. So with sea level rise happening, in what ways has the effects of rising sea level been analyzed with regard to the ebb and flow of groundwater in this area? Because the groundwater isn't going to stop at the fence at Central Avenue.
Director Thorne-Lyman, please.
Councilmember, can I just ask for some clarification? Is your concern about the rising groundwater creating flooding on the site, or is it about the rising groundwater maybe pushing some of the environmental contamination to a different location?
It's both.
Okay.
Rising groundwater level in terms of it rising relative to howsoever the structure is made, and what kind of analysis has been done with regard to that, but also in terms of the fact that stuff in the groundwater flows.
Okay. Maybe I can answer the second half of the question first, and then I'll turn it to our city engineer, Scott Wickstrom, for the first part. There is presence of petroleum residuals in the groundwater, both generated by the Terry refinery material from pre-Navy, when there was an oil refinery, as I mentioned in the slides, and there is petroleum in the groundwater from the Navy. So there are two separate groundwater plumes on this property. In the Alameda Point EIR, we discussed the presence of all of these of the petroleum products and how they will be mitigated in the event of future development. And one of the primary mitigation measures in the Alameda Point EIR is the implementation of the site management plan, which Andrew Romolo from Terraphase is on Zoom if you really want to dive into the weeds. But generally speaking, for petroleum products, the San Francisco Bay Area Water Resources Control Board is the responsible entity to make sure that remediation occurs safely and that help.
Well,
so
setting
Let
aside
her finish her.
petroleum, what
Mr.
about
Desai,
radiation going down?
Councilmember
Oh,
Desai.
okay.
Okay, let the director finish her question, finish her answer, and then you ask another question.
Okay.
Finish your sentence, if you would,
I think I
please.
maybe misunderstood where you were going with this, but the Water Board has asked that Chevron conduct analysis of sea level rise pushing groundwater and the impacts as part of the action plan for remediating the Terry material. So in terms of what's there today and sea level rise putting pressure on groundwater to move that groundwater around, that is something being monitored and regulated by the Water Board, and we should have answers to that very shortly. Would you like?
And did you want to refine, you were saying
Yes.
something about,
So specifically, with regard to the Alameda Point EIR and the adequacy of that analysis, specifically, in what way is the natural attenuation of groundwater that is related to radiation, in what ways have that been analyzed by the EIR? In what ways is that an issue, et cetera? So.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council, Scott Wickstrom, city engineer. Councilmember Desai, specifically to your question about the radiation, I think the appropriate question to ask would be more about what are the measures of containment that Pacific Fusion's facility will have to ensure that any radiation will not leave their building itself and migrate either down, out, up, around? That's a question I think they would be well positioned to answer that question. But if I may, if I can reach to your second question that you'd asked, which was about rising sea levels and that impact on groundwater by itself. The way we are approaching all of Alameda Point, it's in the master infrastructure plan, is that we are basically requiring all developments to raise their base grades around their immediate facility, around their building, to an elevation, right? And what the current criteria is that we go to the 100-year floodplain plus 3 foot of sea level rise, which is consistent with the medium-high risk aversion scenario, high emission scenario for the Ocean Protection Council for the next 50 years. So that's elevation 13. So we are basically looking to stay ahead of sea level rise by some margin of error. And by that same token that we're staying ahead of sea level rise, we are by nature also staying ahead of the groundwater rise that will accompany that. Now, I think it's a very safe assumption to say that 3 foot of sea level rise is going to raise the groundwater table about 3 feet. And so as long as we're having that, we're looking to, I'll say, get ahead, stay ahead of the sea level rise, we are by nature staying ahead of the groundwater. Now, if we were to project ourselves way into the future, when we have to look at other means, levees or anything else to address higher sea level rise, there are many viable options to address emerging groundwater that can be done area-wide or systematically around there. So I hope that answers your question about the sea level rise and the groundwater.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wistrom. It is helpful, and I take your point that one of the important questions is to understand what is the containment measure by which radiation going downwards will not seep into the groundwater. That's an important point to understand, that level of structure. But the question is still asked that in what way has the EIR on which we are depending analyzed the effects of radiation going downwards on groundwater that then subsequently ebbs and flows with the rise and fall of the tide? In what way has the EIR analyzed that?
If I could just pause for a moment, I'm going to ask the city attorney's office to weigh in. We have Len Aslani. Why don't you come on up and introduce yourself and address that point?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. Len Aslani, Assistant City Attorney. Yes, to just jump off of what Mr. Buckley said, the Alameda Point EIR as well as General Plan EIR studied these issues in depth as he alluded to the substance of this issue of groundwater, sea level rise, and because of that, and because we believe those issues were thoroughly studied and mitigation measures adopted pursuant to that study, in this item that is before you tonight, we, as part of the CEQA potential approval before council, determined that no further study is required under CEQA, no subsequent EIR or further mitigation measures along those lines are required.
So the answer is the issue was studied in the EIR.
Yes, Madam Mayor, under both of them, I believe.
Anything to add to that? Anyone? All right. And then did we want to hear from, come on up. We're doing an open house here. And this is Planning, Building, and Transportation Director Alan Tai. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. So CEQA doesn't require the city to study every possible scenario. What the standard is, the EIR has to document and disclose impacts of the project from various regulatory frameworks. And in this case, the issue of groundwater and contamination that was specifically addressed in the General Plan EIR that was completed in 2021. So the fact that there is a California department that regulates this subject matter, and our EIR says that future development must obtain permitting and compliance with the State Department regulations, satisfies that regulatory requirement.
And City Manager Janot, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to add, outside of the EIR process, through the process of taking the land and all of the review by the EPA and DTSC, there is a base-wide restriction on any use of the groundwater. So I just want to add that, and another layer of restriction where there can't be any use of the groundwater for drinking water. So really mitigating any risk related to use of the groundwater for drinking water. That's why it's all kind of put in pipes from East Bay Mud. So I just want to add that other layer of protection.
And then beyond that, I think it would be great if we could hear from someone from Pacific Fusion about the construction of the building, how that structure is going to protect the users, the public, the surroundings.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome
Yeah,
back.
I can't speak to the legal details of the EIR, but I can speak to the facility design, which is there's two things you're thinking about here. There's radioactive materials, which is tritium, and tritium is more expensive than diamond. It's a very, very expensive material. It's in our interest to keep a tight inventory. This is required by the state of California and its radioactive materials license. So there's this material called tritium. It's in a gas form generally. Then there's the idea of radiation, which can occur from doing a fusion experiment. You can think of this like an X-ray. When you go to get an X-ray, you're exposed to radiation. It doesn't seep into your body's water. You don't carry around that X-ray forever. X-rays are light. It passes through you. It makes an image. In our case, we design a facility that's shielded with many meters of water internal to the facility, nothing to do with groundwater, above and below where this fusion event occurs, such that not only does no material escape because it's insanely expensive, this would never occur, the X-rays themselves are also shielded from being able to leave the facility at all. This is a necessity for the safety of workers, as well as just the general operation of the facility. So I can't speak again to the EIR specifically and how that was handled in the legal matter. From the perspective of how the facility is designed, in both fronts of radioactive materials and radiation, we designed specifically for these hazards and mitigate them in well understood ways to both protect workers, the public, and the environment.
Anything further, Councilmember Daysog?
Not now, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lesheen. All right, any other clarifying questions from council before we go to public comment? Let's do public comment. Thanks, everyone, for your answers.
So we have 20 speakers currently, so they will get 2 minutes each. And we'll start with I'll call the first three names, Christina McKenna, Richard Bangert, and Jeff Gould, with Christina McKenna first.
And when you hear your name, if you were in the first three, be ready to pop right up and speak, and remember all the admonitions I gave you later. Welcome, Speaker McKenna.
Thank you very much. Mayor Ashcraft, Vice Mayor Pryor, City Council members, and the rest. Good evening. My name is Christina Najee McKenna. I'm the president of the Public Utility Board here in Alameda, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the board in support of the resolution regarding Pacific Fusion's research and development facility. AMP is proud to provide 100% clean energy, ensuring high reliability and competitive rates for our community. Our commitment to sustainability and to excellence sets the foundation for supporting innovative projects such as Pacific Fusion's R&D facility. The state of California and Alameda are going to confront significant challenges in meeting our climate change goals that we have. Including decarbonization of the power supply, electrifying transportation, homes, and businesses. Pacific Fusion Project represents a real critical potential step towards overcoming these challenges and also achieving our climate action goals. They are intent on proving a long-held promise of fusion energy and that it's feasible. The association with a project like this for Alameda would position us as a leader in clean energy economy, building really upon the city's growing reputation as a key hub for innovation, science, and discovery. And I'll only add that every time I go back east on behalf of back to Washington for Northern California Power Agency, of which AMP is a member, and I say we have 100% clean energy, we get a double take. And everyone's like, wait, what do you mean? Like, no, we really do. Here's my one pager. Please look at this. And they're like, wow, how did you do that? I'm like, well, that's a much longer story, but we have. and it's something to be proud of. And this really kind of fits with our mission as a city. We've been in discussions with representatives of Pacific Fusion now throughout this year.
And your time is up.
Thank you very
2
much.
minutes go quickly. Thank you so
Support.
much. All right.
Richard Bangert?
Welcome, Speaker Bangert.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm satisfied that the safety issues for this project have been satisfied. Do I understand all the science behind this project? No, I barely made it through algebra. But I'm not the inspector. This project will be inspected, licensed, permitted, and ongoing follow-up compliance monitoring by the state of California. I'm not concerned about the safety. What I find attractive about this project is that it checks all the boxes that, at scale, are necessary to move Alameda Point from old military base to seamless integration with the rest of the city. Jobs, new infrastructure, land sales, and that's a key component, land sales, which in turn generate property taxes. That's what we need to move Alameda forward. And this is exactly the kind of project that we've been waiting for. There have been a number of clunkers over the years that have been rejected, but this is a beauty, and we need more of them. And so one of the pluses for this is the high environmental goals of the company. And I wish them every success, and the sooner they can get started, the better. So good luck, and I hope it passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff Gold, then Jonathan DeLong, then Karen Bay.
Welcome, Speaker Gold.
Hi, Council, Mayor. Neither the CEQA review nor the Terraphase study, which states several times that many details are not available, present a complete view of specific radiological and industrial hazards of the Pacific Fusion project. Unlike traditional fission plants, fusion technology necessitates unique considerations for ensuring worker safety, protecting the public and the environment from potential hazards, and safeguarding against accidents. Understanding the potential radiological and industrial hazards of fusion energy and the specific hazards of our proposed fusion technology and design is important to creating a regulatory system. These documents fail to provide a technology-inclusive definition of fusion powers reactors, hazards, and hazard potentials. Fails to provide development of a plan for fusion power specific safety objectives and principles, being number one, defining the organization's safety priorities that address its most significant safety risks, which it shall apply to security of facilities and activities. Disclosure of appropriate provisions in the design construction. Measures for security. For example, will monitoring wells be drilled around the facility to detect potential tritium release of our very shallow Island City's water table? What measures?
Thank you, and your time is up. Our next speaker.
Jonathan DeLong.
Welcome, Speaker DeLong.
Council, thank you for having me. I'm Jonathan DeLong. I'm also the Executive Director of the REAP Climate Center here in town, providing ecological experiences and climate job pathways. I will spare you all of my credential, but I will share a few that are relevant here today. I'm also on the Alameda County Workforce Development Board. I'm on the Navy and the EPA Restoration Advisory Board for the cleanup out at the base. I'm on the Sea Level Rise Adaptation Planning Group for the island, and many more. I'm here to express enthusiastic support for this project for a myriad of reasons, not just because what fusion can do for our species, But I'm here because I have had the chance of working with the company for a lot of the community outreach projects here in town. And as a result, that made me a bit of a target for both good and bad energy, shall I say, pun intended. But it gave me a chance to work directly with the company and see their rigor to community outreach, their rigor to safety, to get to know some of the folks there personally and how good of a fit I feel they'd be for our community goes without saying. But one thing I like the most is the chance I've had to help educate the public on this technology and educate myself. And it's really impeccable what this can do for jobs and for our standing in the Bay in terms of being a technology and a clean energy leader. So I'm going to give back some time to the room and thank you all for your time and enthusiastically support this project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker.
Madam Mayor, if I could just say something really quick. It's about my shoulder.
Councilmember Desai, yes?
Oh, just for the public, if you see me grimace, it's because my shoulder is aching. I mean, so that's why if you see that.
Don't take it personally,
Yeah.
he means, yeah. And for the record, if he would just see a doctor. Anyway, I have ibuprofen in my purse if you want. Our next speaker.
Karen Bay.
I won't twist your arm, though. Welcome, Speaker Bay.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council, and City Manager Ott and staff. My name is Karen Bay. I am a 40-year resident of Alameda and a West End resident. And I'm here tonight to support the sale of 13 acres plus to Pacific Fusion for a research and demonstration facility. I'm actually very excited about this project. With the state and federal regulations and the strict licensing and monitoring requirements, I believe this facility is safe to build in the Enterprise District. The R&D facility represents a $1 billion capital investment, will create over 250 jobs, and it will position Alameda Point as a key hub for innovation, science, and discovery. Finally, it's been over 25 years, Mr. Desog, and since the transfer from the Navy. And it's been over a decade trying to develop the Enterprise District. So I urge you tonight to support this exciting project. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
We're going to go to 3 remote. Beth Remenap.
Welcome, Speaker Remenap.
Thank you. My name is Beth Remenap, and I am a West End Alamedan for 25 years. Thank you for the opportunity to express my strong support for Pacific Fusion. I learned of this company at a presentation last week, and the mission is beyond exciting. Before jumping into a manic 100% endorsement, however, I did my own little research, and my premise was the need for clean and reliable energy, which of course is a no-brainer, and it's becoming scary urgent. I did a comparative chart listing the energy sources and aspects of those sources, which included emissions, reliability, fuel supply, waste, and safety. Of all the energy sources, fusion was the only one with no negatives within the categories. Then I added a 6th column, which was commercial readiness, and that's where fusion has the problem, readiness. Fusion stands out to be one of the most promising solutions to our urgent need for clean, reliable energy. So I'm saying, what are we waiting for? The environmental benefit of this technology are significant, and by supporting Pacific Fusion's R&D facility, we are contributing to a cleaner planet for generations to come. Let Alameda not only be known for our beautiful Victorian era houses, but also being known for a community at the forefront of global scientific breakthrough for cleaner, more secure energy future. I respectfully urge you to support the siting for Pacific Fusion's R&D facility in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Kathy Weber.
Welcome, Speaker Weber. Hello.
Good evening, Mayor.
There you are.
Hello.
Hi.
There I am.
Yes.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor Ashcraft and council members. My name is Kathy Weber, Executive Director of Downtown Alameda. And on behalf of our Board of Directors, I'm here to express our strong support for the proposed Pacific Fusion Research and Development Facility at Alameda Point. This billion-dollar investment is one of the largest in our city's history. It brings 250 quality jobs, supports local trades, and is projected to generate $120 million in tax revenue over the next decade, helping to fund essential city services. We also see a clear benefit to our downtown and business districts. A growing high-tech workforce and visiting partners will bring new energy, pun intended, to our restaurants, retailers, and service businesses. Beyond the economic impact, Pacific Fusion is activating an underutilized area and upgrading critical infrastructure, laying the groundwork for future investment. They've engaged our community thoughtfully, prioritized safety, and designed a facility that aligns with Alameda's values of innovation, sustainability, and responsible development. We urge your support of this transformative project. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Madeline Sadek.
What is it?
Madeline Sadek.
Oh, welcome, Speaker Zadek.
Good evening, Mayor Ashcraft, council members, city staff. My name is Madeline Sadek, and I serve at the capacity of being the presidency of the Alameda Chamber and Economic Alliance. I'm here tonight to express our strong support for the Pacific Fusion R&D facility at Alameda Point. This project is once-in-a-generation opportunity for Alameda. Pacific Fusion is bringing $1 billion investment, one of the largest private investments in our city's history. That kind of commitment speaks volumes. It shows that they have confidence in Alameda and in our future as a hub for clean energy and innovation. The facility will create 250 high-quality jobs right here in Alameda, plus even more construction and trades jobs to bring it to life. Over the next 10 years, this project is projected to generate about $120 million in sales use and property tax revenues. That money will directly support what the city services are needed for, services that matters to all of us here. Just as an important also is the development will transform underutilized land into something with long-term value. It's not just a building, it's a catalyst for the future for Alameda Point, a spark for more business growth across the Enterprise District. As a chamber, we would love to support this project because it really aligns with our mission to drive sustainable growth and to champion innovation and to create lasting community benefit. We urge you to support this project. Let's say yes to smart innovation and investment. Let's say yes to jobs and yes to bold, clean energy future for Alameda. Thank you.
Thank you. And next speaker.
I'll call the next three in person. Daniel Muccino, Daniel Chin, and Sebastian Buenfil Rojas.
Okay, and you remember I said no applause, so don't. Which was the first Daniel?
Daniel Muccino.
Come on up.
Hi there, y'all.
You
Thanks.
can raise that microphone. It's flexible. Yeah.
I'm going to be looking a little bit down. so-
Okay, do you.
Appreciate your time tonight. I'm Daniel Muccino. I live and work in Alameda. I'm on the base, walking distance from the proposed site, and you might find me at Forbidden Island, serving drinks. I'm also a mechanical engineer and have worked in a nuclear facility, traditional fission, before, and stood in the same room as a nuclear reactor. So I feel like I have a little bit of a unique perspective. That said, I hate to sound like a broken record, but I can't endorse the project enough. I believe that fusion power is going to be a potential major player in the future of energy, both because of its sustainability and its minimal waste production, the safety of the project, and the technology means that it fails off, so that if there is some sort of issue with the technology, like a pot of boiling water. When you turn the water off, there's no more boiling. As an Alameda resident, I think that having the research facility in Alameda enriches our community, it creates jobs and builds our talent pool. I'd ask you to imagine the kind of people you'd expect the project to attract, but we don't have to speculate. They've been spending the past months introducing themselves to the community. And I found my interactions with them to reveal a team that is forward-thinking, low ego, curious, collaborative, and open. These are values that I share, and I imagine that the city does as well. As a technology, it's been only a dream for decades, but building here establishes Alameda as a leader in the energy, technology, and R&D spaces. I say, why not dare to stand behind the vision of a sustainable future?
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Daniel Chin.
Welcome, Speaker Chin. You could just group everyone with the same first name together. But no, welcome.
Madam Mayor and council members, my name is Daniel Chin. I've lived in Alameda all my life. I studied computer science at San Jose State. I worked on environmental projects before, namely, I've worked with the city of San Leandro to plant trees in the city. And beyond that, I have an overall care for the environment and the future. I wanted to share my reasons for supporting Pacific Fusion and Fusion Power, namely the safety and bring something to Alameda. Fusion power and fission are different. There's definitely a bad reputation of nuclear power with like disasters such as Chernobyl and Fukushima, but that is not fusion. Materials needed for fusion power are as simple as a glass of seawater, while fission requires uranium isotopes. Uranium needs to be stored somewhere for thousands of years, while fusion creates minimal waste that doesn't last as long. Energy produced by fission is clean and sustainable and even more energy dense than fission. Obviously, my biggest concern is sustainable energy for the future, and fission eases those concerns. And bringing on to my second point about bringing something interesting to Alameda, Pacific Fusion is at the forefront of fusion. No power grid has ever been powered by fusion, so it is very experimental. But the prospect of this company being based in Alameda is exciting and can put Alameda on the map for something significant. I think it would be cool to say that my hometown, Alameda, a place that I deeply care for and love, was at the center of an energy revolution. All of this to say, I hope you take my points into consideration, and thank you for giving us a platform to voice our opinion.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Is Sebastian Buenfil Rojas, then Henry Cooper, then Jacqueline Zhao.
Welcome, speaker. I know the first name was Sebastian. You'll help us out with the rest.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. I'm Sebastian Buenfil Rojas, and I've lived in Alameda for the majority of my life. I know that nuclear energy has always been kind of controversial because of events in the past, which could strike an issue for anyone, for any plethora of reasons. However, this project would just entail a research facility, as said before, and not a power plant. This is similar to a research facility, the National Ignition Facility in Livermore, which does somewhat similar, however, very different in goals and in technique to the one that they would do here at Pacific Fusion. Here, in terms of the radioactivity, as previously stated, it would be similar to the level of a university, say UC Berkeley. So it shouldn't be harmful to our environment, especially with safety precautions in place. It would also provide 250 jobs, as said previously, which I know would be very beneficial because I know it can be very hard to find a job sometimes, especially here in Alameda. And for reference, Pacific Fusion would research a form of nuclear fusion called pulsed inertial fusion, which is building on similar concepts to inertial confinement fusion, which is used by the lab in Livermore. The form of fusion is very easily deployable due to the technology it uses, so furthering our research on it could help our energy going into the following decades once we've figured how to better handle it. Pacific Fusion's goal is to achieve 1,000 times the performance and net facility gain as soon as possible. Pacific Fusion is building on decades of research to further our world in efficient energy, so why not let Alameda forefront it? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Henry Cooper.
Welcome, Speaker Cooper. And our next one after that.
Jacqueline Zhao.
And Ms. Zhao, you might want to make your way out to the the edge of the room. If you come on up, welcome.
Hello, my name's Henry. I have lived in Alameda for most of my life, and I'm now a sophomore at Cal Poly SLO. I'd like to say that I'm a huge supporter of Pacific Fusion and their work and their test facility planned on Alameda Point. One of the many reasons that I support Pacific Fusion is the many jobs it brings to Alameda. I know that many people who live in Alameda don't actually have the opportunity to work here locally, and so they have to go outside contributing to other communities rather than their own. I'd also like to say that as an engineering student, many of my employment opportunities here, currently and in the future, are widely outside of Alameda as well. And so I would love to work locally. And I think that this would allow residents such as myself to have the opportunity to actually work here. And I also think it'd be a great opportunity for many residents to immerse themselves in the new technology that it brings. I also think that our federal government is currently restricting the research and development, especially on the clean energy front. And so I think this would be an excellent opportunity for the broadened community of Alameda to kind of show their resolve and commitment to the new development and research for clean energy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Ms. Zhao.
Jacqueline Zhao, then Zach Goldberger Judd, then Doyle Saylor.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jackie, and I'm currently studying microbiology at UC Berkeley. I was born and raised in Alameda, and I'm still proud to be a part of this community today. When I heard about Pacific Fusion's plan to build a test facility at the Point, I was excited yet concerned, but after some research and conversations with some folks in the field, many of my initial worries were eased out. What stood out to me the most about this plan was the word nuclear. The word already rings some alarms for people, but for good reason. But that is nuclear fission. What we're talking about is nuclear fusion, which is a safer and more energy-dense method that has the potential to become the future of renewable energy. And what Pacific Fusion aims to do is to take this method and find out how to scale it in order to bring clean energy to the Bay and hopefully around the world. They are already located around the Bay, and bringing a testing facility to Alameda would help our community move towards its climate goals. Simultaneously, it would help bolster activity at the Point and encourage additional development in the area. I know a lot of high school students and undergraduate students like myself are looking for internships and jobs, so building this facility would bring many jobs to Alameda, learning opportunities for younger folks, and a one-of-a-kind chance to make Alameda a center of sustainable energy. Every innovative plan like this does carry risk, but these have shown to be extremely minimal. To clarify, we are not bringing an entire power plant to Alameda, but merely a testing facility. Any amount of radioactive material would come in very tiny quantities and be subject to similar regulations as a hospital that treats cancer. The company is also very transparent about taking full responsibility for anything that goes wrong, but again, there is such little risk of that happening in the first place. So upon hearing that the risks are minimal, I am in full support of Pacific Fusion building their testing facility at the Point.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Zach Goldberger Judd.
Welcome, Speaker Goldberger Judd.
Hello. My name is Zach, and I recently graduated from high school. I've played baseball in Alameda for the past few years, and I'm going to continue playing at Occidental College, where I'll most likely study biochemistry. In high school, I discovered my passion for protecting the planet. As someone who also enjoys math and science, it quickly became clear that I wanted to approach sustainability with technological innovation. As such, Pacific Fusion could not be more exciting to me. Pacific Fusion is at the forefront of confinement fusion with an aggressive timeline and strong ambitions. Their urgency and confidence isn't without basis. Their method builds off years of research and study at both Sandia and Lawrence Livermore National Labs. Pioneers in the fusion space. In short, their technology isn't a moonshot, as is the case with many fusion companies. It's founded, informed, and hopeful. I've come to understand that Alameda, like myself, loves to position itself at the forefront of sustainability and the climate resilience. Let's both keep that pace by bringing Pacific Fusion to Alameda. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Doyle Saylor, then Michael Orshkoff, and then Finley Hayes.
Welcome, Speaker Saylor.
Mayor Ashcroft and City Council members, I'm Doyle Saylor. I look at this project with high skepticism. I take the physics of fusion power production still to be achieved, so this project planned in the middle of an urban center is unproved. Effort to make a statement that fusion production is safe. As I understand the current state of California oversight, there is no oversight of fusion power plants. In particular, what is a detailed environmental review in this research project? And what I mean by there's no, when you turn over the review to the health services, you're not talking about real physics. As a reminder, tritium is a radioactive substance used to produce neutrons in unproven fusion process. This project does not aim to employ actual Alameda residents, but I was wrong listening to those people. Let's find real experts to comment on this fusion power project, take seriously what this contributes to the long-term benefit of Alameda, and not the big money picking out Alameda. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Michael Orshkoff.
Speaker Orshkoff, welcome.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and esteemed members of the Alameda City Council. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Michael Oreshkov, and I'm a lifelong Alamedian. I grew up here, and I carry the values and experiences I've gained in this community as I engage in larger pursuits in my life. I'm currently a student at Pitzer College, part of the Claremont Colleges, where I study within a program that places a deep emphasis on environmental sustainability, equity, and social responsibility. These are not just academic ideas to me. They're principles I hope to bring back and apply to the city that raised me. Alameda has given me so much. And as I begin to imagine how I might contribute and return to the community, I want to do so in ways that reflect both the needs of our present and the hope of our future. So that's why I'm here to voice my strong support for the construction of Pacific Fusion's test facility on the Point. This facility is more than just a research site. It represents a bold step toward a more sustainable world, one in which Alameda could be at the forefront. The work that Pacific Fusion is doing aligns with our climate action goals, our community's commitment to innovation, and our desire to leave behind a livable planet for future generations. It's a rare opportunity to directly support cutting-edge clean energy development right here on our own soil. But the benefits of this project extend beyond science and sustainability. The presence of this facility would draw attention from leading minds in academia, engineering, and technology. It would invite people who are passionate about innovation and not only work here, but to live here, to raise families, mentor students, and invest in the civic life of Alameda. In a time when so many young people feel the need to leave their hometowns to find opportunity, a project like this creates the opposite effect. It tells students, dreamers, and thinkers that Alameda is a place where big ideas are welcomed. I believe this is the kind of decision that shapes the long-term character of a city. By supporting this facility, we're creating a culture, one that is open to ecological progress, scientific leadership, and meaningful contributions to the global climate challenge.
Thank you, and your time is
Thank
up.
you for your
Thank you
time.
so much. Our next speaker.
Finley Hayes, then Tushan Amar Siriwardena, and Melanie Dixon.
Welcome, Speaker Hayes. Hayes?
Hello, I'm Finley. I just graduated high school, and I support the installation of Pacific Fusion facility. Concerns regarding approval of this testing facility are often held regarding safety. Worry is understandable given past nuclear meltdowns like Fukushima, Chernobyl, and the 3 Mile Island incident. But the difference between what happened at these facilities and what Pacific Fusion is trying to achieve is nuclear fusion versus fission, disregarding the fact that these are nuclear power facilities while this is a testing facility. The meltdowns that have occurred are product of a chain reaction. This cause is not possible with the practice of nuclear fusion, given the fact that a chain reaction cannot occur in nuclear fusion. The existence of a testing facility would reduce a risk of public safety. I mean, reduce risk of public safety. To test this practice of clean energy is a risk-free environment. So, thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is
Tushan,
Speaker Amara Sirwardena,
and then Melanie Dixon.
and Speaker Dixon after that.
Hi there, Mayor. Hi there, City Councilors. I am Tushan Amara Sirwardena, and I'm here to just credential myself as a parent of 2 kids. I wrote a letter along with some other parents from Alameda with young kids who are very excited about this project because we are very concerned about the future of this island, this nation, and this world when it comes to climate change. And we are worried about this nation's ability to address it, and we think that states like California and cities like Alameda need to take the lead. And so that is why we are excited about this potential for us to take the lead. But second, I'm excited about it as an Alamedan. You know, these scientists are looking for net gain. We're looking for net gain here in Alameda too. We need to spark the point from a building and construction perspective. We have been sitting on these blank lots for a long time, and I think bringing a company like Pacific Fusion not only brings the infrastructure, but it brings the people and the talent, and I think we've seen from a lot of companies at the point how much cross-pollination happens and how many new companies start from those. And so I'm even more excited about that potential. But I think we should also ensure that we are good stewards for our city, because this is one of our rare resources, our land. And so please make sure that we get the most value out of it. And then third, this is, you know, we're seeing these baffling plans come from elsewhere of what a city could be like. We have a chance of, this is a plan that actually aligns with our master plan, our climate plans. This is a chance to really define what we want at a local level, going through the right process. So thank you for hearing. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Melanie Dixon.
Welcome, President Dixon.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the council. I think you've heard the magic this evening, and I know we're not supposed to applaud, but these young folks in the room tonight got me fired up, and I've thrown my talking points away.
We applaud in our heart is what we do.
Yeah, I'm applauding in my heart and my head. What I will say is I've had the opportunity to be exposed to the team here, and I had an opportunity to go to their existing site and take a tour of that site, and I took my faculty members. We had members from our aviation program, members from our science program, members from our technology areas to go out here. And I'm sure you know faculty, we're pretty skeptical, right, as a former faculty member and now administrator. And I'll tell you, we went out there with some non-believers about what this could produce for our students, right? And you've heard about the 250 jobs that it would bring to the market, which I believe is much more than that when you think about procuring the facility and getting it set up for development. But I think more importantly than that is you've heard from the young folks about being born and raised here and wanting to be able to chase their passions here in their own community, change their own community, impact the community that impacted them. And I think that's the work that we do at College of Alameda, is create jobs, think about economic development, think about economic growth. This project is ripe for that. It's a win-win for the city. It's a win-win for Pacific Fusion, and it's certainly a win-win for our students as it relates to internships, but also in gainful employment with a livable wage to live a quality life here in this high-cost region. California is the 5th largest economy in the nation. We lead, right, in the world, and we lead. So we shouldn't stop now, right? And just because we're the only island that has an educational institution on it doesn't mean that we shouldn't take big leaps, big risks, and big investments, right, to actualize our future for our residents. As a resident of Alameda, I strongly encourage you to support.
Thank you so much. And I don't know what Hawaii would say about, but anyway, our next speaker.
Kate Sturr, then Dr. Nicole Porter, then Debbie Ryan.
Okay, welcome Speaker Sturr next. Hi.
Hello, nice to see you. Thank you Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, my name is Kate Sturr. I am the Vice President of External Affairs at Natal Energy, and I'm also an Alamedan and mother of 2 kids that go to Neptune Nature School out at Alameda Point, very near the proposed site of Pacific Fusion. I've had the privilege to work out on the base since 2015, actually at the Enterprise lot, where I was part of the Makani Energy Kite project, formerly a part of Google X. And we were testing the Energy Kite right near where the proposed Pacific Fusion site is. And now, as Vice President of External Affairs at Natal, I've had the privilege to see how Alameda Point can be a catalyst for the growth of these clean energy startups and how it is really fostering this place. There's a great ecosystem of people who worked at Makani and are now at Kairos or at Saildrone or at Pika, and all of these opportunities have been made possible by the unique aspects of Alameda Point. And to see Pacific Fusion proposing to inhabit this area that's really not been put to use for a long time is just an incredible opportunity for the development of our city, but also for our clean energy future. We need to find carbon-free energy sources now, and we need a whole bunch of them. Fusion is going to be a game changer, but we also need to continue to pursue all these different avenues, and we can do that in Alameda, and Alameda can show the leadership that it has already shown and continues to show by accepting Pacific Fusion's proposal to come and start their business here in Alameda.
Thank you so much. Our
Thank you very
next
much.
speaker.
Dr. Nicole Porter.
Welcome, Dr. Porter. Hello.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Nicole Porter. I work for the College of Alameda as the Vice President of Instruction, along with President Dixon. And so, Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, thank you, and council members, thank you for this opportunity. As we support learning and creating opportunities for research and innovation, I wanted to speak on bridging the gap between industry and education demands. So College of Alameda, or COA, as some of us know it, not only empowers individuals, but also fuels the continued growth and prosperity of California's manufacturing and fabrication landscape. And this includes the demonstration system of Pacific Fusion plans to create. Our motto at COA is believe, achieve, succeed. And with Pacific Fusion and collaboration, we'll support the learning and training to create the next generation, as I was so inspired. You all woke me up tonight. I didn't have to have any coffee, as I was inspired by hearing the students who got to up and spoke, those who have graduated from high school, those who are in college. I was energized by their testimonials as well. And they are truly the next generation and the workforce of individuals who will innovate. And so remember, I said believe, achieve, succeed. And so we believe in combating climate change. We achieve in obtaining the skills and knowledge to assist Alameda in succeeding with growth, science, and discovery. I thank you for your time. I thank you for this opportunity. We're looking forward to continuing working with Pacific Fusion and talking about stackable classes, so students will be able to, not only as they continue their careers in high school as dual enrollment in students, they'll be able to take classes now that will help build their knowledge and skills and then transfer on to a 4-year. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Debbie Ryan.
Debbie Ryan. Welcome, Speaker Ryan.
Good evening. I am so inspired by these speakers tonight. I hope you are. I have to wear my glasses. So good evening, members of the board and Mayor Ashcraft. Debbie Ryan, I have lived here with my family for over 12 years. I'm also the Vice President of CASA, which is Community Action for Sustainable Alameda. And I've also spent about 20 years as a renewable energy developer here in the Bay Area. Very much in support of this project. There's so much that's been said tonight. I just want to tell you quickly that CASA, part of our role is about mobilizing community towards the implementation of more climate-focused sustainable practices throughout our great city. And combining that with robust economic development strategies. We've talked about all these focuses already tonight. Alameda's move over this last decade to attract and increase a growing number of clean and green tech companies does just this. It positions us in the epicenter of future innovation, technology investment, and this is just an epic opportunity as we try to be a carbon-free city through our CARP and everything else we've done with AMP. Aside from CASA, as I mentioned, I have worked as a renewable energy developer, working on solar power, working on energy storage for many, many years across the country, still do. And as you've heard, we absolutely need more baseload power. I and many others throughout all energy industries know that these advancements we make now towards other forms of carbon-free baseload, inclusive of nuclear fusion, are critical. We can't reduce our reliance on fossil fuels without relying on a multitude of these combined resources. To keep it simple, the reason that CASA is supportive is that the promise of fusion is now, it's in the public eye, the investments are massive, and we know that Pacific Fusion has raised the funds, is going to be serious, and will be here for the long term. They are going to attract many other tech and clean tech companies along with them who are looking to establish their roots in this area. This is huge for the city of Alameda. And I just want to kind of jump to, in addition to the jobs, I want to relay that.
And your time is up. Thank you. Our next speaker.
We'll go back to remote, and it's Kathy Weber's name again, but perhaps somebody else is using her phone now, so we will see.
Yes, we only get one bite of the apple. Hi, whoever's using Ms. Weber's phone.
Or perhaps it was just raised in error.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
and next?
Okay, then in person, back to in person.
Oh, did we finish our remote
Yeah,
speakers?
she
Okay.
went off. So Lila Fernandez, then Arlo Blackmau,
Come on up, Speaker Fernandez, if you
and
heard your
Oliver
name, come on up.
Goldman.
Okay.
Yep, right.
We got to keep this parade moving, so when you hear your name, make your way out to the side of the room so you can come on up. Hello.
Hello. Hello, I'm Lila Fernandez, and I'm a rising freshman at Scripps College. I just want to reinforce and voice my support for Pacific Fusion's test facility. Nuclear fusion gives us a step towards a clean and remarkable energy source that would produce a vast and extensive amount of energy. A test facility would allow for further research, advancements, and exploration in this ever-growing field of study. One that feels especially prominent in the current state of the environment and how we currently extract energy. In this case, the test facility being a demonstration system without the risk or worry of it eventually becoming a power plant furthers my support. The potential for a nuclear fusion test facility is not just about energy, but an opportunity for development in both scientific and economic innovation. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Arlo Blackmau McGrew.
Welcome.
Good evening, City Council members. Thank you for having me. My name is Arlo Blackman McGrew. Excuse my bad handwriting. I'm a rising freshman going to University of California, Davis next year. For the past 4 years, I've been an involved environmental activist in the East Bay. I co-founded an organization called the Climate Positive Student Network and take great pride in raising awareness and organizing environmental action in my high school and beyond. I stand here before you in support of the Pacific Fusion Test Facility. Humanity is moving towards complete integration of sustainable energy. For the long-term survival and thriving of our species, fossil fuels must be phased out. All levels of breath, the world, the country, and cities need to align on the issue and put resources into getting off of our reliance on fossil fuels. The Pacific Fusion Test Facility is exciting to me because it actively moves the needle towards our sustainable future in a direct, tangible way right here in Alameda. We must invest in sustainable energy options to allow for a chance at a healthy future for humanity. If not us, who, and if not now, when? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Oliver Goldman.
Welcome, Speaker Goldman.
Good evening, honorable city council members. My name is Oliver Goldman. I just graduated high school a little over a week ago, and I'm going to college this September. This is my first time speaking in front of the Alameda City Council, so I thank you for the opportunity. As I head off to college and into the world, I'm not sure what I want to study yet, and I definitely don't know what I want to do when I'm older. But I do know after college, I want to come back here to the Bay and be part of building a better future for the planet and this community. That's why I found myself so interested in fusion energy and why I'm excited about the possibility of Pacific Fusion's project here in Alameda. Like a lot of young people, I'm worried about future jobs, especially with AI reshaping entire industries. Fusion is a field that's just beginning, with constant breakthroughs and billions of dollars going into research. Knowing that Pacific Fusion plans to create 250 permanent good-paying jobs here in Alameda makes me hopeful that after college, I could come back and be a part of it. I, along with those sitting behind me, are concerned about our planet's future and want to help. Fusion is one of the safest energy production methods for our environment and is the future of energy and climate sustainability. Along with the contributions this demonstration system will bring to the fusion industry as a whole, Pacific Fusion has also committed to keeping Alamedans safe. They say they will meet all OSHA requirements along with being regulated by the California Department of Public Health. I want this community to be a place where young people like me can come back to live, work, and contribute, where we don't have to leave to find opportunities to solve big problems. For all these reasons, I encourage you to support this project. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Jonathan Voyager, Toby Thiefing, and then
We heard
Annalise.
your name. Come on up. Jonathan?
Jonah.
Jonah.
Sorry, Jonah Voyager.
Okay, and the next two creep out to
Toby
the
and
side.
Annalise, yeah.
Toby and whom?
Annalise?
Okay. Hello.
Hello, my name is Jonah Voyager. I currently attend high school in Berkeley. Climate change is and has been for a while a pretty urgent concern of mine, and I've been keeping tabs on nuclear fusion as what seems to be the best alternative fuel source to things like fossil fuels. I see fusion as the long-term key to a sustainable future. Pacific Fusion's urgency to construct and develop their test facility in Alameda is very appropriate given how rapidly our climate is changing. And as such, I'm very in support of their initiative. The test facility, as has been stated, will be regulated under the same guidelines as research facilities and hospitals. If you've ever visited the UC Berkeley area, there are similar facilities with the same guidelines and regulations, and it's pretty clear that their surrounding community is very healthy, thriving, very safe. The test facility in Alameda would have a very similar minimal impact on the community around it, and I hope to see Pacific Fusion in Alameda in the near future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Toby Thiefing.
Come on up.
Hi, my name is Toby Tiding. I've been here a few times before, but on Zoom. I go to school in Pennsylvania, the University of Pennsylvania, and I study physics, business, and tech. It's nice to be in person and not in my dorm room at 1 a.m. I just want to say that these folks are doing amazing stuff. It's clear what the young community wants. While at Penn, I published a paper on tritium, which is an important component of fusion's fuel. There's somewhere around 25 kilograms of it in global storage, and it costs tens of thousands of dollars per gram. It's a crazy material. It's also highly regulated by the state, and for good reason. Tritium typically raises concern because it's a radioactive isotope of hydrogen. I would like to stress, however, that this test facility would not be using that much of it. At max operation, they'd be pulsing once a day, and that would use around 10 milligrams per shot. At that scale, it's just not a concern. In addition, the CDPH will ensure that there's proper regulations of this, that the workers will be safe, that the community will not be exposed to radiation, nor to any tritium leakage. If you don't trust me, you can trust the third-party review done by Terraphase. Like mentioned earlier, they ran simulations to see what would happen to the environment and to the public health in the event of a catastrophic leak. In those scenarios, they only reached 5 to 8% of the EPA's allowed regulations, and that was a catastrophe. As such, even so, or in addition, you'd have to ingest the tritium somehow, whether you eat it, I don't think that'd be very smart, or if it absorbs in your skin. Tritium requires careful attention, but it simply isn't a major concern at scale. As a physics student, Pacific Fusion is exciting, but as an environmentalist and an Alameda resident, it's necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do remember you calling in remotely from Pennsylvania. It reminds me of conducting the last meeting from Washington, D.C. Next speaker.
Annalise? Annalise?
Okay. Welcome, Speaker Annalise.
All right. Hi. Yep.
Hi.
My name is Annalise Howell, and I'm a high school student and an Alameda resident. and I'm here to just emphasize how important this project is. Sustainable energy is such a huge part in like our fight against climate change, and it's just such an amazing project. And to have Alameda sort of host it if it comes around would just be so cool. And sorry, sorry, I'm really freezing on this. Yeah, sustainable energy is
Doing
just so
great.
important, and I really think that this would be such a cool project for Alameda. And I don't want to lose my home to climate change. I don't want to see us go underwater or have to build a seawall to not do that. And I think in order for us to not be forced to go into that issue, we need to be part of the solution. So please consider this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
That was our last speaker.
Thank you so much. We're about to take a 10-minute break because I have a rule that we don't go more than 2 hours before we take a break, and it's been a little over 2. But I just want to say thank you to all the speakers. But I don't know about the rest of the council. Hearing from you young people just made my day, my week. You are just so articulate, and it's one of the reasons I do my little preamble every time is because for some of you it was your first time speaking at a public meeting. Don't let it be your last. We need your voices, your participation more than ever. So thank you so much for that. So everybody, it's 9. Let's come back at 9:40, 9:40, and let's take a little break. We will be back, and then we'll do our deliberation. Thank you so much. Everybody, places everyone. Look at the students all sit down. All right. Staff, are we ready to go back?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Hi. All right. Thank you. And you're ready in the balcony?
Yes.
Are they still in the balcony?
They're
There they
up
are.
there, yeah.
You didn't go home on me? Okay. Well, we have had our public comments, so now we come to council deliberation and discussion and a vote. And if I might, I'd just like to start on my far left hand. Would you be ready, Councilmember Jensen, to make your comments?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you to all Alameda staff for answering questions and presenting, to everyone from Pacific Fusion for providing the information, and for your patience and for your outreach in Alameda. I know there's been at least for events that I'm aware of, and I'm sure there have been a number of additional events where you've been out in the community answering questions, providing information to people about the project, about what it would mean for Alameda, what it would mean for the environment and for our future. So I really appreciate that. And as we heard from many of the commenters, I think this is so exciting. We have an opportunity that doesn't exist for other cities because they don't have the resource that we have, which is Alameda Point. And as I say, what my objective is to use that resource as effectively and as productively as possible. And this project sounds like it will do just that. But of course, there are considerations, and this is a new technology and things that might not be, we might not be aware of, or things that may not have been experimented before. So I just did some research. I have a master's in public health, and I kind of care about health and the environment, and I did a little research about the concerns that have been raised about the tritium isotope, I guess it's called. And what I found kind of both made me more confident in the project and satisfied me. What I learned really just from internet research and from some AI inquiries is that tritium is not, there's not evidence of any, substantial evidence of any deaths from tritium other than some in the 1960s when people who were making fluorescent watch faces were using tritium and ingested it. So I think, and some of the releases of tritium, there have been some substantial releases from what I understand of tritium that has been used in nuclear reactors. And when that tritium is released into water, our U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Agency has said that those effects were mitigated and didn't find, for the most part, any harms coming from any of those releases. So I know that there's more out there. I don't have in front of me all of the points that I found, but it seems to me that this is this is a safe technology when put into use in the proper way. This, as we've heard tonight, this is not going to be a nuclear reactor or an energy generator. This is going to be a R&D site to identify the ways that this technology can be used in the future. And I'm more excited than ever, and I'm very supportive, and I thank everyone for all their hard work on this.
Thank you, Councilmember Jensen. Vice Mayor Pryor.
Yes, I too am very, very excited about this project. One of the things I really appreciate, Councilmember Jensen talked about this, was the outreach. The time that I don't want to say staff, but the engineers and everyone that works at Pacific Fusion, the listening to everyone and taking the feedback. I was at an event this week, and what I also appreciated was about our community here in Alameda, the people that are so genuinely interested and ask questions. And it was funny because Courtney and I were talking, and people kept coming up saying, there's going to be a presentation, right? Like we want, and I was like, yes, Alameda, we love information. Give us more information. So that was wonderful. And also, there's so much, I could talk about this forever. I'm trying to be a little concise. I'm really excited about, obviously, it's renewable and clean energy, because what we're using right now has really destroyed the planet. And the next generation are going to have to live with the consequences of that. So to even have the opportunity to make a difference in their future with something that is renewable, it's cleaner. I just think about the health hazards that we're dealing with because of this, because of using, gasoline, for example. And I just could go on. I'm trying to be, anyway, I just think that it's safe, and not just safe for our health, but even in the world, as oil is a finite resource. So this is something we don't have to, as humans, fight over. It's something we can build with. So I just think that the global security is also increased by such an investment like this. And I'm sure, as everyone will probably talk about later, I'm just so inspired by all the young people that are here today that spoke, because this is why I ran for city council, was because I want the opportunities for the young people to be better. When I was your age, life was very easy and very fun, and the challenges that you have ahead of you are absolutely, none of us had to deal with that. We didn't have to, there was no housing shortage. We could get a job anywhere. Life was very fun. People had been lying to us for decades about fossil fuels. So you're just growing up in a very different world. So I just love that we would have the opportunity to do something very positive, to start making the change for you. And yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Bowler.
Thank you. I was listening to the young people here today who are talking about, some of them grew up in Alameda or spent a lot of their time in Alameda. They're talking about the future of the planet. I was thinking back to the time when I grew up in Alameda and loved this town. I was never thinking about, oh, maybe this island won't be here one day. Never thinking about that. In preparing for the meeting today, the members of the City Council had the opportunity to review a 300-page document, which was a checklist under the California Environmental Quality Act. It's a streamlined process of a checklist, because in those 300 pages, there was conclusion after conclusion that the project did not make a substantial deviation from the already existing environmental impact reports, specifically the Alameda Point Environmental Impact Report and the General Plan, EIR, as well. Those are much, much larger documents and detailed a lot of the concerns for all the different potential reuses of the former Navy base, Alameda Point, in those documents. But think about that. 300 pages that concluded that a new EIR was not necessary. But we don't even have just that. We also have an independent safety review of this project. And while it is true, as was mentioned by one of the speakers, that not every scenario, not every question is answered as of yet, those are all in areas where they're highly regulated and there have to be answers in order for the project to take final shape. That report, that independent analysis, concluded that this was a very safe risk proposition for this community. And it was presented by experts who looked at it carefully. The regulatory agencies, of which there's multiple that would be looking at this, are just one part of the equation. This city council, our planning board, our staff, the experts that we have internally too, will be looking at each phase along the way as we go through the entitlement process and looking at the pieces to put together the final vision, the components to it, and there'll be further discussion of a lot of these concerns. If you think back to the history of this town, we've done big things in the past. In fact, Alameda was not originally an island, and it was a big project to do the work to create the waterway around the estuary to make it an island. We were the home to the bedroom community to San Francisco in early days, and that's why we have so many wonderful Victorian homes. We have really distinctive things that happened in our history, like Neptune Beach. Right now, over in Alameda Point, there's an old U.S. aircraft carrier, the USS Hornet. And so sort of our newest history is celebrating achievements like when we first put a person on the moon. And slowly, over the past decade or so, there's been a movement of new businesses coming to our town. Green, blue technologies. There's also, there's different other types of technologies. At one point in our history, we were even talking about becoming Silicon Island. There was talk about that. It's not lost on me that the name of the company is Pacific Fusion, and although we are competing with a couple other communities to be the site of this project, I think we're the only one that you can look out from the proposed site and see the Pacific Ocean in the form of the bay. The staff of our city has done a tremendous job vetting this project quickly, putting a lot of effort into working with Pacific Fusion. Pacific Fusion has put a lot of energy into getting to know our community, having this outreach. And I think it's fair to say that the relatively low risks for this project are far outweighed by the potential to become an island community 100 years from now that look back and said, wow, we are part of really making a difference for this planet.
Thank you, Councilmember Bowler. Councilmember Desai.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much to the public. My belief is that more analysis is still needed to understand the effects, if any, of radiation generated by Pacific Fusion, specifically on the groundwater underneath it. This part of Alameda has an extremely high water table, and it's a water table that ebbs and flows with the changing of the tide. This groundwater is not contained by the fence line separating Alameda Point's Enterprise Zone District from the nearby West End. So the issue before us is not simply nuclear fission bad, nuclear fusion good. It's not simply fission versus fusion. The issue, to me, is radiation and understanding the effects of radiation, and more importantly, whether the downward effects of radiation on the groundwater have been adequately analyzed. We mustn't get lost in the excitement of the topic of fusion technology, and instead should focus first on the impacts, if any, of radiation on the groundwater. It's my view that the documents we are relying on, such as the Terraphase report or the existing EIR that staff is relying on, have not adequately addressed radiation and groundwater and sea level rise, and the way in which the groundwater kind of ebbs and flows across Alameda Point and the West End. So my view is more analysis is still needed.
Is that it for you, Councilmember? You're done? That's it. All right. And Councilmember Jensen, I believe you wanted to add something.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to add, also, the other considerations that I have that I appreciate is that this project is being done, when it's done, it will be with private funding. People are investing in this. Big companies, big venture capital investors are investing in this because they believe that this can happen, that this will be a good thing for their investment and for the world. And so I have to point that out. That's really important to me, to know that there's going to be skin in the game by a lot of funds here. And the other thing is that there is a partnership that we haven't talked much about, but Pacific Fusion has a partnership with the developer, with Heinz Developer, that has proven to be effective and bring in projects at cost and that benefit the community. So I think that's an important consideration for me as well. And finally, our vote tonight is to give Pacific Fusion an option to develop a research campus. And Alameda isn't your only option. So I know that it's not your only option, but I want to say it's your best option. So you should probably take it. Thank you.
All right, and I generally go last in my comments as mayor. I do want to follow up on something my colleague, Councilmember Bowler, noted, that for truth in advertising, Pacific Fusion and our proximity to, getting out to the Pacific, I think you should keep that in mind. But moving on from my feeble attempt at humor, first of all, I want to thank our staff, led by Base Reuse and Economic Development Director Abby Thorne-Lyman, for the hours and hours and hours of time and your writing. And we've had many discussions in closed session and just, across desks. And thank you so much for doing the heavy lifting. Thank you to all the Pacific Fusion folks. Because of my crazy schedule and lots of travel, I have missed every single community event that you've held. But nonetheless, we've certainly had the opportunity to communicate. And again, to staff, thank you for commissioning the independent third-party review. I am a proud undergrad from UC Davis, and I do have a Bachelor of Science degree, but this is not my specialty field, and I will always defer to the subject matter experts, which are out among you, and not at the dais, but I appreciate all the materials that were provided. And there's so much that could be said, but I want to go back to the young people who addressed us, and a lot of you have stayed. I talked to some of you at the break. For some of them, this is truly their first time to ever attend a city council meeting, so we've behaved really well. Thank you. Keep it up. No, and please don't let it be your last. As I said to some of you, we need your voices now more than ever. And my colleague, Vice Mayor Pryor, alluded to the fact that, and Councilmember Bowler too, I grew up in Alameda also, Edison, Lincoln, Alameda High, but we just didn't, we took a lot for granted. We just thought tomorrow would always come, and you worried about things, getting a job, the right job, but today, the young people who are graduating the class of 2025, and those of you in your early years of college, and by the way, Alameda Unified School District is this is like a great advertisement. Look at the fields you've gone into, the schools you're going to, and your passion that you bring back to your community. I think we really need to pay attention to this message. I mean, we know it in our hearts, but to hear it said, I went here to school, I grew up here, I love this community. I'd love to come back sometime when I have my professional skill. I'd like to serve my community. I'd like to make the planet a better place. And isn't that what we're all doing up here? We are planning certainly in the moment, but planning is always forward-looking, and we don't plan and we don't move forward to a successful future by looking in the rearview mirror and remembering what it was once upon a time. Those days are never going to come back, and sometimes they're not quite the way they were remembered. We do have an impressive history, but some of our history is, as is in many communities, is less than illustrative. But now we are in a place where we don't have any time to lose when it comes to the climate and climate change and sea level rise. I mean, do I worry about groundwater and sea level rise? Heck yeah, I do. We're an island. It is literally an existential threat to our existence. I am satisfied that there are the scientific and the engineering adaptations and measures put in place to protect the facility, to protect the surrounding areas from the facility. I am not convinced in a time when the federal government is, I was just in Washington, they said they're not clawing back anything, they're just carefully reviewing grants to make sure they're being properly spent, but a few of ours are on hold for the moment, and some of them have to do with adapting to climate change. So our responsibilities, not only as citizens of Alameda, but as citizens of planet Earth, is to make sure we're doing everything we can be doing, and we need to be doing it in just, warp speed, because we've lost a lot of time. And this out here, that's the future generation, and the kids that are following them, we owe them these kinds of innovations. So it's difficult. As long as I've been in elected office, it's been since 2012, rarely do we see a high-profile, somewhat controversial project that gets 100% buy-in. That's okay, and it's always good to see different perspectives. But at the end of the day, I am convinced that this is the right project for Alameda to move forward on. I hope Pacific Fusion thinks that Alameda is the right home for them. But I also, College President Melanie Dixon was so eloquent in talking about what it would mean to her, their college, to the workforce, to the students for internship possibilities. There is so much here that we should be thrilled to have come to Alameda. So I am fully on board, and what I'm looking for is a motion to approve. Madam Clerk, just help me so I get it right. We've got a couple things we need to.
It's adoption of the resolution and introduction of the ordinance, and you can do one motion
We
to
do it
approve
in
both.
one. Who's going to move that forward? It's been moved by Councilmember Tracy Jensen, seconded
Seconded.
by Councilmember Greg Bowler. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Motion passes 4-1. No applause, but you did a great job. Thank you, everyone. Thank you again, staff. Awesome job. All right, we are moving on to item 8, City Manager Communications.
Great, thank you. It's a hard act to follow. So some quick updates. This Saturday, June 21st, is the Downtown Alameda Rock and Roll Beer Stroll from 1 to 5 p.m. little different, sorry.
Yeah.
That's what my notes here.
That's how we change gears.
That's right. That's right. Getting a little more local, micro local.
Yeah. And micro beers, right?
That's
Micro
right.
beers, yeah.
We're
Hi,
excited.
young people, thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead,
No,
City
it's
Manager.
okay. I feel.
They're just so darn cute, aren't they?
I know.
Besides eloquent.
This is much less interesting, let me tell you.
Sorry, the mom in me is coming out.
I know. We're excited to celebrate the 4th of July with you at Alameda's Homegrown Parade. And for those who are able, consider participating in the 5K walk run of the parade route taking place at 8:30 a.m. And benefits the Midway Shelter for Women and Children. Tomorrow, the Oakland Alameda Water Shuttle will board its 100,000th passenger. It's not a word I normally say, 100,000th passenger. We'll be there with cupcakes for all passengers and crew aboard the shuttle carrying the lucky rider. Then on July 8th, we'll launch our new schedule, which expands service to 6 days a week and increases service on Fridays and weekends until 10:30 p.m. Kudos to the 88 Mastic Senior Center member artists who created 156 pieces of artwork for the multimedia art exhibit, showcasing watercolor and acrylic painting, ceramic, mosaics, stained glass art, jewelry, and mixed media collage. And special thanks to the dedicated Mastic volunteers and staff who thoughtfully organized and installed each piece. And artwork will remain on display through August 18th, so be sure to stop by. And then lastly, Juneteenth, observed annually on June 19th, is a local, state, and federal holiday commemorating the day in 1865 when 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was issued, Union soldiers arrived in Galveston, Texas, bringing news of freedom to more than 250,000 enslaved African Americans. And city facilities are closed this Thursday in observance.
Okay, thank you, City Manager. Madam Clerk, the next item is oral communications on non-agenda items. Do we have a speaker?
We do. Henry Song.
Welcome, Speaker Song. Yeah, come on up and make that microphone the right height for you. Welcome.
Hi, good evening, council members, mayor, vice mayor, and council members. I previously appeared before the Recreation and Parks Commission last Thursday, lodging some feedbacks I have regarding the current park usage between tennis players and pickleball players, and I'll lodge those feedback here again. As repeated before the commission, I had some concerns with regards to the interpersonal interactions between tennis players and pickleball players, specifically at Lake Eckert Park. And unfortunately, in an incident, and this is something that's kind of growing, and I'm really resisting making blanket statements about groups based on their preferred activities. But in a very unfortunate incident last September, my sparring partner, my hitting partner, was waiting for me, and he had been hitting with somebody else, another friend of ours who just lives 2 blocks away from Cruzy. And in the interim, the pickleball players who are playing now on the strike courts with the pickleball lines next to the baseball diamond repeatedly walked behind my friend during the field of play. And when I came to hit with him 2 hours later, they did the same thing again, this time behind me. And as you know, at Lake Eckert Park, there is a walkway where you can walk outside the tennis courts instead of walking into the actual tennis courts during field of play. And when my friend politely asked them not to do that, one of them challenged my friend, who is about as mild as you can imagine, like more mild than Milli Vanilli, challenged my friend to a fight. I think in retrospect, we probably should have requested for police assistance, but in this day and age of social media and cancel culture, and I think everybody was just trying to diffuse the situation. If ARPD, in their infinite wisdom, can find ways to carve out dedicated space for young kids and youth in their programming, whether it's tennis or pickleball, and give them the space to explore the activities, providing with the necessary space and time. And I think that council, if there are ways to diffuse that sort of interpersonal conflict going forward would be ideal. Because as a longtime racket sports connoisseur, I mean, I played ping pong with my dad as a 5-year-old boy. I got pressed into a varsity singles match in badminton when I was in high school, and our team was dead last in the league. And tennis has been the longest of any racket sports for me, going on 15 years. And I just love playing tennis in places like Franklin Park, just because it's so charming, right, in a residential neighborhood. And I think in places like Alameda, where it's tight-knit community, for it's a general civility that Alameda is really known for. There must be a way where we demand from the activities and the industry leaders who promote these sports to not just demand but require civility, and so that in public settings that these situations are averted. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any further speakers?
That was our only speaker.
Okay, so with that, I will close oral communications, non-agenda items, and we'll move on to, we don't have any council referrals. We'll move on to council communications. Let's start on my right-hand side this time, Councilmember Daysog.
Yes. Along with Vice Mayor Pryor, on June 6th, I attended the Dumaguete City of Alameda 10th Anniversary Sister City Relationships event, so that was really nice, and Vice Mayor Pryor, I think, can say more. And then on June 8th, I attended the Alameda Preservation Society, Architectural Preservation Society's 28th presentation of awards to homes that were redone, and it was very nice, very well attended at the Veterans Building. And just FYI, this Saturday is the beach sandcastle contest, so I will be a judge.
Oh, it's a lot of pressure being a judge for that. I'm just going to warn you, Tony. Councilmember Bowler.
I work for donuts.
Ah, we didn't hear that.
June 12, John Lipp's retirement party as part of a celebration of his great work for the Friends of the Alameda Animal Shelter. And then June 13, was able to drop in on the early portion of graduation day for Leadership Alameda, which is a great program put on by the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Pryor.
Yeah, I got to go to the Dumaguete 10th anniversary, and it was wonderful. And what was also great is there were representatives from other sister cities there, and it was so nice to talk to so many different people and to hear about their cities and these other countries, and it was a lovely event. I also went to Pacific Fusion Town Hall, and I spoke about it earlier, but it really is great to see so many engaged and knowledgeable residents here in Alameda. I got to go to two grand. I've been on vacation, so I said yes to everything. As I go down this list, you're gonna. So I went to two grand openings back to back. I went to a Poke House in Shoreline, and there's a tea shop called Sips, so that was wonderful. I also, and this was great. I got invited by a former council member, Stuart Chen, to attend, to go to Chinatown. There's an internship of young people that are helping with the Chinatown improvement. So that was really lovely. And one of the young people that's an intern is here from Alameda, and apparently they take people from all over the Bay. And so that was really nice. There also, I also did go to the leadership graduation for the chamber that was here. And I was also at the retirement party for the CEO of FOZ and the new CEO who's coming up. So yes, that was wonderful. It was a very fun couple weeks.
Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you. On Monday, June 9th, I was at Mastic Senior Center for the Community Action for a Sustainable Alameda presentation about the Oakland Alameda Estuary Adaptation Committee projects, which we've alluded to a little bit tonight. These projects will prepare Alameda for sea level rise. And everyone who's watching, the hundreds of millions of people that are watching, go to casa-alameda.org for more information. CASA was also part of a great event last Thursday, June 12th, when it was my honor to participate in the Stop Waste Environmental Leadership Awards. CASA, with their partner Okapi Reusables, received the Stop Waste Reusable Food Share Partnership Award for the project to reduce waste by providing reusable, returnable cups to patrons at Alameda cafes and coffee shops. It's a unique and really been very well accepted program and supported. And there were a lot of people at the Stop Waste event that wanted to learn more from other cities, so that was good. The Alameda Backyard Growers was also recognized by Stop Waste at the event for leadership in community engagement, collecting and distributing thousands of pounds of fruit from local trees and giving it for distribution to the Alameda Food Bank. So it's getting rid of the fruit, making sure it doesn't fall on the ground, and giving it to people who really need it. Both CASA and Alameda Backyard Growers are great organizations that make Alameda more green and more livable. After the Stop Waste Awards, I attended with, I think, everyone here, the retirement party for another Alameda institution, John Lipp, former director of the Friends of Alameda Animal Shelter. The party was lovely, and it was also a great opportunity to meet the new Friends of the Alameda Animal Shelter director, Adrian Abuyan. Yesterday, Monday, June 16th, I joined representatives from local social service organizations, including Alameda's Health and Human Services staff, for a tour of the first phase of the brand new North Housing Project. In partnership with Island City Development, the Alameda Housing Authority will soon be unlocking the doors for more than 100 new units in 2 buildings, one for formerly unhoused individuals and families, and the other for low-income seniors and veterans. This is great news and another great resource. And finally, a big heartfelt thank you to 3,000 of my Alameda neighbors for coming out to Chichenio Park and City Hall last Saturday to show their support for democracy.
Thank you. So last time I addressed you all at this meeting, I was in a hotel room in Washington, D.C., because I was back there with some members of the Alameda County Transportation Commission to lobby for federal funding for our transportation and transit projects, and roads and highways and local streets. Keep your fingers crossed. But just briefly, we had very busy days every day. We met with the different committee members or their staffs from House Transportation Infrastructure Committee, and we would meet with the majority representative, and then we'd meet with the minority representative. They were separate meetings. And then also Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works, because these different committees have funding jurisdiction over different projects. Alameda County Transportation Commission staff did a great job of keeping us organized. We met, had meetings at the Department of Transportation with Deputy Secretary and House Transportation Infrastructure, Highways and Transit Subcommittee. And we also had meetings, personal meetings with our own Congresswoman Lateefah Simon, our neighboring Congressman Eric Swalwell, another neighboring Congressman Mark DeSagne, and one of our senators, Adam Schiff. Senator Padilla was elsewhere that day, but we met with his very capable staff who handles transportation. And as I said, and then the last day on Thursday, we met at with the White House Office of Intergovernmental Affairs for Transportation and Transit, and in the Eisenhower Executive Office building. For those who know, DC is just adjacent to the White House, and had a good conversation there. And then from there, I raced off with our lobbyists to their office, and they set me up in their conference room because I am also a part of the Mayor's Institute on Pedestrian Safety, and we had a virtual meeting, and a couple of staff from City of Alameda were attending virtually, so I did that. It was a very full, but hopefully fruitful week. And then I got back, and the reason I couldn't go to the Alameda Architectural Preservation Awards ceremony was that I was invited to the celebration dinner for New Oakland Mayor Barbara Lee at Scott's at Jack London Square. I, too, attended the June 12th retirement celebration for John Lipp as FAW's Executive Director. And on Friday the 13th, this past Friday, I presented certificates of accomplishment to the graduates of the Alameda Leadership Program, great program, as has been noted, that the Chamber runs. And I also was with Councilmember Jensen on the North Housing Tour. I needed to get back to the office, so I didn't get to go to Linnet Corner. But soon, mid to late July, Estuary 1 is going to be, they're going to be moving in new people. And it's lovely to see these buildings, these units there. They're all either studio or one-bedroom apartment. Because this is supportive transitional housing for people who've been unhoused. So there is an on-site residential manager. They have a two-bedroom apartment in the unit. The rest are one-bedrooms or studios. They're furnished. They're beautiful. They're new. Oh, and it's an all-electric building. Everything is electric, and their stoves have, the cooktops. And they're some of the units on the first floor. They're made sure that they're for those with physical disabilities, so the counters are lower. It's pretty snazzy. And anyway, that was yesterday. So that's me. We're always busy all the time. So now, Madam Clerk, do we move on to my nominations?
Yes.
All right. So I am very excited to introduce to you two people who you will appear either in person or on the screen at our next meeting. But these are my appointees for, one is for a position on the our Commission on Persons with Disabilities. I'm really excited to introduce Julie Lyons, who I met at a workshop, one of the workshops for the Alameda Aquatic Center, because she talked about her challenges as someone who's a swimmer, but who was also diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2009, lives on the East End and goes over to Lincoln Park Pool in her motorized chair, but because the changing facilities aren't ADA accessible, she wraps herself in a big towel and motors back after she swims her laps. So I reached out to her a couple times and said, I think you'd be great on the commission, and she agreed and put in an application. But she has master's degrees in both physical therapy and traditional Chinese medicine. She's worked in hospitals and private clinics on osteopathic medicine and spinal rehabilitation. And then with her life experience, having been diagnosed with MS in 2009, she's embraced movement as medicine, using Pilates, swimming, and cycling to stay active. And she says, my lifelong passion for holistic health continues to shape my life, and I remain a dedicated advocate for people with disabilities. She's going to be an awesome addition to that commission. And, you know, we talked about John Lip, who just retired from FOS, but I didn't let him linger long in retirement because I named him to the, he's already been confirmed to the Commission on Persons with Disabilities. And then we had an opening on the Historic Advisory Board, and there's a specific position that is for an architect, so it had to be an architect. And man, do we have some impressive architects in Alameda. And this gentleman is David Crotty, and if you saw the very thick application, he has been either designed as the lead designer on design teams of projects all over the world, and I mean to say an airport in Doha, Qatar, and a NOAA Pacific Regional Center in Hawaii, and another project in Alaska, some courts all over the state. And if I recall correctly, and you might remember, Madam Clerk, if I told you, I think he actually lives on the same street as the architect member who is stepping down because he's reached his term limit. So, you know, we like to concentrate them in a certain block. No, that isn't true. Anyway, at the next meeting, you will get to meet them, and of course, I get to appoint, but the council approves. So that is all I need to do. And yes.
And you wanted to do the rest of the incumbents. You have a list
Yeah,
of incumbents
I
there
do,
too.
I do, yes. And then, you know, you can serve 2 terms on the board, and so I always have, you know, I check with the city staff to see how's everybody doing, and I check and ask them to check with the incumbents to see would they like to serve another term. And I'm very pleased to announce that, yes, we are reappointing to the library board Dimple Kanji and Sarah Strickler, to the planning board CMRS Cisneros and Andy Wang, to the public utilities board Christina McKenna, who you just heard tonight. She's pretty amazing. And that's it. And then I also will just note for anyone in the public who's listening, we will soon be putting out the word, like an RFP, for Poet Laureate. We are going to do a new Poet Laureate because it's been in place for so many years. We're also doing a youth Poet Laureate, but we might wait until the school year starts, I'm thinking, to reach out about the youth Poet Laureate one. But anyway, our library director, Mike Eitner, is working with me on that one, and we'll get an announcement out soon. Which brings us to our adjournment. And this evening, I am adjourning our city council meeting in memory. This is on a very somber note. I know you've all heard that on, I want to say Saturday, early Saturday morning in Minnesota, 4 individuals were shot, 2 of them were killed, and 2 of them were elected state representatives, killed by an assassin who has fortunately now been captured, with State Senator Melissa Horton and her husband Mark shot and grievously wounded, with State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette. And it's a very troubling topic that in our country, I mean, we are not of one political mind. We hold many different views, but it is really incumbent on all of us, whether we are on the pickleball or tennis court or out at a council meeting or just out and about in the community, to try to find that place of respect. Something that our vice mayor says often, and I really appreciate it, is that she says, I assume the best in everyone until I'm proven otherwise, but not often. But she just, and I think that's such a good approach to take. But I think we all need to just stop and take a moment and think, you know, how can I sometimes just turn the heat down on a situation, on a conversation? How can I make things better? But for now, let's please just remember, hold in our hearts these individuals whose lives were taken, who were very seriously wounded, who leave behind families, children, loved ones, colleagues, friends, It is a tragedy for our entire nation. So a moment of silence, please. Thank you, everyone. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thanks, staff, for all your good work, and thank you, council. Great job tonight.